Y'all, it seems as if Ghislaine Maxwell, y'all, pled the fifth during her deposition. Yeah, man, I got it all, man. You know what I'm saying? I got it all. More news on Nancy Guthrie, you know, the anchor lady's mom that went missing, and then they got sent to ransom. You know what I'm saying? For so many millions of dollars in Bitcoins. I most definitely got that as well, man. Make sure y'all double tapping that screen. That's how you hit the like button if you just joining the show. You know what I'm saying? We most definitely in the building, guys. You know what I'm saying? Somebody type something down there. Let me know that y'all can hear me so we can get this show on the road, guys. Shout out to everybody in the building, man. Can y'all hear me out there? What's up, Sean? What's up, country? Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me, my guy. We most definitely on the news today, man. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know. We hear you already. Absolutely. Appreciate it, big dog. Appreciate you letting me know. But like I said, man, Ghislaine Maxwell, you know, who is part of the Epstein files, Epstein's girlfriend, basically had a deposition, guys, where she pled the fifth. She didn't even want to talk about it. She said the government was supposed to be giving her some kind of deal or something like that, like what they call it, immunity, and she didn't get it, so she didn't want to talk. You know what I'm saying? That's what she said. Said she didn't get it, so she didn't want to talk, pretty much, is where we at. Hold on, let me turn this music off. Yeah, we most definitely finna get to it, guys. This was Ghislaine Maxwell deposition that she just had, you know, and basically she didn't want to say nothing because the government, her immunity wasn't passed. So let's check it out, guys. Make sure you double tapping that screen. Most definitely hit that like button. Let's go.
Investigations of any reform position. This is a deposition of Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform under the authority granted to it pursuant to House Rule 10. Accordingly, House Rule 10 grants the committee broad jurisdiction for the committee to conduct investigations of any matter at any time. On July 22nd, 2025, the Subcommittee on Government Operations of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform voted by voice to approve a motion directing the chairman to authorize and issue a subpoena to Ghislaine Maxwell for a deposition. On July 23rd, 2025, Chairman Comer issued a subpoena for Ghislaine Maxwell to appear today for a deposition in furtherance of the committee's investigation into the actions and investigations of Mr. Jeffrey Epstein and Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell. I will enter the subpoena and corresponding cover letter as Exhibit 1. I will enter as Exhibit 2.
Let's take time to double tap that screen, guys. Get the likes up. That's how you hit the like button. If you're on a mobile device, double tap that screen or click the three dots in the right-hand corner. Hit the thumbs up. This is Ghislaine Maxwell's deposition in the Epstein case, guys, in the Epstein files. Let's go.
A letter dated July 29th, 2025 from David Oscar Marcus, counsel for Ms. Maxwell, stating in short that his client would invoke her Fifth Amendment rights and request for the deposition to occur after the resolution of her Supreme Court petition. I will enter as Exhibit 3 a letter dated August 1st, 2025 from Chairman Comer to David Oscar Marcus, stating that the committee would continue its good faith negotiations and postpone Ms. Maxwell's deposition pending the resolution of her Supreme Court petition. I will enter as Exhibit 4 a letter dated January 20th, 2026 from 2026 from David Oscar Marcus to Chairman Comer, outlining that his client still intended to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights. The committee noticed today's deposition on February 4th, 2026. I will enter the notice for this deposition as Exhibit 5. Can the witness please state her name and spell her last name for the record?
Before she does that, this is David Marcus, and I just wanted to introduce her and make a brief statement. So members of the committee, on my advice, Ghislaine Maxwell will respectfully invoke her Fifth Amendment right to silence and decline to answer questions today, even though she would very much like to answer your questions. She must remain silent because Ms. Maxwell has a habeas petition currently pending
Wow.
that demonstrates her conviction rests.
Wow, guys, I'm just saying, they said as much as she would like to answer your questions. Imagine her going there and then not answering any questions as she invokes her Fifth Amendment, guys. That's crazy. Make sure you're double tapping that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up, guys. Let's get the likes moving. We got 126 people in here, only got 11 likes. Let's hit the like button, guys. Double tap the screen or your mobile device, or click the three dots in the right-hand corner and hit that thumbs up.
On a fundamentally unfair trial. For example,
Hey,
jurors
positive
lied during
vibes.
voir dire to secure seats on the jury, and the government promised immunity and then broke that promise. Newly discovered documents now demonstrate these facts conclusively. If this committee and the American public truly want to hear the unfiltered truth about what happened, there is a straightforward path. Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Only she can provide a complete account, and some may not like what they hear, but the truth matters. For example, both President Trump and President Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing. Ms. Maxwell alone can explain why, and the public is entitled to hear that explanation. Thank you, members of the committee, for having us today. Ms. Maxwell can now proceed to answer her questions with the Fifth Amendment. Thank you.
Wow, with the Fifth Amendment,
And the
guys.
witness, please say her name.
Boy, it's a
spell her
bunch of
last name
something. It's
for
a
the
bunch of
record.
nonsense going on.
Ghislaine Noel Marion Maxwell, Maxwell.
Thank you. My name is Jack Emmer, and I am the Chief Counsel for Investigations for Chairman Comer. Under the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform's rules, you are allowed to have a counsel present to advise you during this deposition. You have a counsel representing you in a personal capacity present with you today.
Correct.
Will counsel please identify themselves for the record?
Go ahead, Leah. You can go first.
Leah Saffian, LeahSaffian.
Wow, guys, continue
Thank you,
double
Jack. This
tapping
is
that
David
screen.
Marcus
Let's get
here,
the likes up.
and my colleague Melissa Madrigal is also present.
Thank you. For the record, starting with the majority staff, can the additional staff members please introduce
What's up,
themselves
Bucky?
with their name, title, and affiliation? Starting with the majority, can members of Congress please identify themselves for the record?
James Cover, Chairman of the Oversight Committee. Andy Biggs, Arizona State Congressional.
Clemency for a monster, and the Nazi, she will protect those who help her. Okay.
Congresswoman from Mexico versus National District.
I Raja Krishnamurthy, Illinois State District. James Walkinshaw, Virginia, 11th District. Sivasta Ramani, Virginia, 10th District. Ro Khanna, California, 17th District.
Robert Garcia, Ranking Member, Oversight.
Thank you all. Ms. Maxwell, before we begin, I would like to go over the ground rules for this deposition. The questioning will proceed in rounds. The majority will ask questions for an hour, and then the minority will have an opportunity to ask questions for an hour if they choose. The said members have questions for the witness. They will be propounded during their side's respective rounds. The clock will stop if you need to confer with counsel. Your counsel is speaking.
Thank you,
And when
positive vibes.
members or staff are speaking during the opposing side's rounds of questions. We'll alternate back and forth until there are no more questions. Do you understand?
I do.
There is a court reporter taking down everything I say.
Somebody in the crowd talking about, bro, that's a double. They think this is a clone of Ghislaine Maxwell.
And everything
Lord.
you say to make a written record for the interview. For the record to be clear, please wait until the staffer questioning you finishes each question before you begin your answer, and the staffer will wait until you finish your response before proceeding to the next question. Further, to ensure the court reporter can properly record this deposition, please speak clearly, concisely, and slowly. Also, the court reporter cannot record nonverbal answers such as nodding or shaking your head. So it is important that you answer each question with an audible verbal answer. Do you understand?
I do.
We had a member just join. Can they identify themselves for the record? Thank you. Exhibits may be entered into the record. Majority exhibits will be identified numerically. Minority exhibits will be identified alphabetically. Do you understand?
I do.
We want you to answer our questions in the most complete and truthful manner possible, so we will take our time. If you have any questions or do not fully understand the question, please let us know. We will attempt to clarify, add context to, or rephrase our questions. If we ask about specific conversations or events in the past and you are unable to recall the exact words or details, you should testify to the substance of those conversations or events to the best of your recollection. If you recall only a part of a conversation or event, you should give us your best recollection of those events or parts of conversations that you do recall. Do you understand?
I do.
You are required by law to answer questions from Congress truthfully. This also applies to questions posed by congressional staff in this deposition. Do you understand?
I do.
If at any time you knowingly make false statements,
But that woman not nowhere living her best life. She in jail.
But not limited to perjury. Do you understand?
I do.
This includes both knowingly providing false testimony, but also stating that you do not recall or remember something when in fact you do. Do you understand?
I do.
Furthermore, you cannot tell half-truths or exclude information necessary to make statements accurate. You are required to provide all information that would make your response truthful. A deliberate failure to disclose information can constitute as a false statement. Do you understand?
I do.
Is there any reason you are unable to provide truthful testimony in today's interview?
Well, as you know, she's going to take the Fifth Amendment. So that's our caveat to that question.
Please note that if you wish to assert a privilege or any statement today, that assertion must comply with the rules of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform. Pursuant to that, Committee Rule 16C1 states, for the chair to consider assertions of privilege over testimony or statements, witnesses or entities must clearly state the specific privilege being asserted and the reason for the assertion on or before the scheduled date of testimony or appearance. The chair. If the chair overrules any such objection, the witness shall be ordered to answer. If the witness continues to refuse to answer a question despite being ordered to do so, the witness may be subject to sanction. Do you understand?
I do.
Ordinarily, we take a 5-minute break at the end of each hour of questioning, but if you need a longer break or a break before that, please let us know and we will be happy to accommodate. However, to the extent that there is a pending question, we would ask that you finish answering the question before we take the break. Do you understand?
I do.
Finally, I will note for everyone here today that the contents of what we discussed in the deposition today is confidential under the House deposition regulation. Under the rules, the chairman and ranking member, minority members shall consult before any release of testimony or transcripts, including portions thereof. This means it is a violation of House committee rules to disclose the contents of the deposition prior to
Y'all reading all this stuff and she invoking her Fifth Amendment.
official release. For this reason, the marked exhibits that we will use today will remain with the court reporter so that they can go into the official transcript, and any copies of those exhibits will be kept at the table or returned to us when we wrap up. Can the reporter please swear in the witness?
Thank you, Rika.
You solemnly declare and affirm to the county of testimony that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Madam Court Reporter, we could not hear you well, and I'm sure Ms. Maxwell could not hear you. I don't know if there's a way to give the Court Reporter a mic so that, thank you very much.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Let's hear this. Or lack thereof.
Ms. Maxwell, do you have any questions before we begin?
I do not.
The time reads 10:14, and the majority time is begin now. Ms. Maxwell, were you a close friend and confidant of Jeffrey Epstein?
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Wow!
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
She's not saying
Ms.
nothing,
Maxwell,
guys.
did you at any time play any role in Jeffrey Epstein's activities involving the recruitment, grooming, or trafficking of young women or girls?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Wow!
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, have you ever coerced, directed, or otherwise instructed any young woman or girl to provide sexual favors to Mr. Epstein or any other individual?
This some bull crap, ain't it? She invoked her Fifth Amendment all the way through, guys. She didn't answer not one question. Double tap that screen if you're on mobile devices, how you hit the like button, or click those three dots, hit that thumbs up. She wanted to be released. I'm pretty sure she did. And she also wanted immunity, and it didn't happen.
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, did you and Jeffrey Epstein attempt to surround yourselves with influential individuals to curry favor and shield yourselves from potential scrutiny?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Fifth Amendment. She gonna plead it all the way
Ms.
through.
Maxwell,
what type of stuff
can
is
you
this?
please provide us with all the names of other additional co-conspirators to the crimes perpetuated by you and Jeffrey Epstein?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Let the record reflect that Ms. Maxwell has invoked the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. Ms. Maxwell, please be very clear. Are you declining to answer the question put to you solely on the ground that you believe the answer will incriminate you?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Ms. Maxwell, is it your intention to answer every question put to you by the committee today with the assertion
She is not afraid for her safety. Well, she might be, but she's not answering these questions because she don't want to incriminate herself. Ain't got nothing to do with her safety.
Against self-incrimination.
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
That's what I said.
The answer to that is
Country,
yes
she ain't
also.
say
So just
nothing.
as her lawyer, I'll tell you, yes, that's her intention.
Does the minority wish to ask any questions? We will go off the record.
Something going on, you know, minority
back on the
question. We
record.
back.
Good morning, Ms. Maxwell. My name is
Good morning.
Morning. My name is. I just have a few questions on behalf of the minority as well. At any point during your personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, were you aware that Mr. Epstein was sexually abusing minors and adult women?
I plead the fifth.
I would like to answer your question, but on the advice of counsel, I respectfully decline to answer this question and any related questions. My habeas petition is pending in the Southern District of New York. I therefore invoke my right to silence under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution.
Have you ever facilitated the sexual abuse of any minor or adult woman by Mr. Epstein?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
I don't think she
Have
was
you
afraid
ever
at all.
participated
It was
in the
clear
sexual
to me.
abuse
It was
of any minor
clear.
or adult
Yeah,
woman?
she just wanted immunity.
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Are you aware of Donald Trump ever
She got some kind of case pending where she I think like she sued the DOJ or something like that, QI.
engaging in sexual activity with an individual introduced to him by you or Jeffrey Epstein?
I invoke my Fifth Amendment right to silence.
Okay. It appears that the committee will not receive substantive answers from you at this deposition. So at this point, I'd like to enter into the record as minority exhibits A and B, letters that the committee has received from survivors of Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell's abuse. These letters speak to the survivors' horrific experiences and to their desires for transparency, accountability, and justice in this investigation. We hope for their sake that we are ultimately able to get the answers that they deserve and that we were unable to get here today. Finally, I'd like to enter into the record as Minority Exhibit C, a letter from Representative Ro Khanna dated February 8th, 2026. And with that, we can go off the record.
Some went on, they went off the record. I think that's
Go back on the
pretty
record.
much it.
Ms. Maxwell, considering your invocation of your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination pursuant to the terms of the subpoena, you are excused.
Thank you very much.
All right, so y'all seen she didn't say too much. Let's see how the media reacted to her pleading the Fifth all the way through her deposition, guys.
Has emerged from that hearing and informed all of us that Ghislaine Maxwell has decided to take the Fifth Amendment and refuse to answer any questions. Listen to what he's saying.
Ready? As expected, Ghislaine Maxwell took the Fifth and refused to answer any questions. This obviously is very disappointing. We had many questions to ask about the crimes she and Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspirators. We sincerely want to get to the truth for the American people and justice for the survivors. That's what this investigation's about. I want to mention the next steps. We can confirm we have 5 more depositions in the book scheduled for the Epstein investigation. On February 18th, Lex Wexner, who is a financial client of Epstein and I believe the former CEO of Victoria's Secret. February 26th, we have former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. February 27th, former President Bill Clinton. March 11th, Richard Kahn, Epstein's accountant. And March 19th, Darren Endike, Epstein.
Can we please take time to get these likes to 100, guys? If you in the building enjoying the entertainment, double tap that screen on your mobile device or click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. We done had about 400-500 people in the building, only got 49 likes. Let's get those likes all the way up as they tell us the future plans for this Epstein, for the Epstein depositions, guys. We just heard some about Hillary and Bill. You know, I think somebody was on the 22nd.
Lawyer.
I'm not mistaken.
So we will continue to move forward and try to get answers for the American people.
Do you think that Britain's royal family has questions to answer to you, Guthrie?
Well, we would love to hear, from anyone. Obviously, I can't subpoena in foreign countries, or I would have done that in the Biden investigation. But do you have anything to add, Andy?
I'll just add one thing that the attorney for Ms. Maxwell said that she has no indication and would say that neither Presidents Trump or Clinton are culpable for any wrongdoing. And that's one thing they said in his opening statement to us today.
Was Ghislaine Maxwell put under pressure to stay silent?
What's that?
Was Ghislaine Maxwell put under pressure to stay silent today?
Well,
Was she put under pressure?
Is that a suspicion? How would I have no idea. I mean, she was given an opportunity. We would have brought her in months ago, but she's indicated she was gonna plead the fifth, and unfortunately, she had an opportunity today to answer questions that every American has, questions that would be very important in this investigation, and she chose to invoke her Fifth Amendment rights.
What her lawyer said about President Trump and Clinton, and do you think that there's anything more to do with Ghislaine Maxwell now that she's not there?
What
QI say she believes she lied and making deals. Let's go.
What her attorney said, Maxwell didn't say, her attorney said that she would answer questions if she were granted clemency by the president,
Trump,
and that she went on to say about Clinton and
but he went on to expand that. The other thing is, he pointed out a number of times that she has a habeas corpus petition pending.
There you
for
go.
A new trial and release.
She's trying to get a new trial and release, guys. That's why she invoked her Fifth Amendment.
I know that those conversations are ongoing. They would like them to be public. Is your understanding still that we're looking at those same February dates and they're going to be private?
yeah, that's what they agreed to, and they will be public, just like this will be public hopefully very soon. We've released every transcript and every video and audio of every deposition we've done since I've been chairman of the committee.
Mr. Chairman, does the committee have any plans to subpoena Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick given the revelations?
We're going to try to get these.
Somebody said she's been silenced.
We've got a lot of very important people we're trying to bring in to answer questions. We don't want to do anything to jeopardize the 5 that we have on the book. So we'll see what happens here, and we'll move forward. We're interested in talking to anyone that might have any information that would help us get justice for the survivors. Yes.
Thank you. On the disagreement with the Clintons about closed door videotape testimony versus public hearing, are you concerned that this will be enough to restart contempt proceedings, or do you think you'll come to a resolution?
I mean, they said they agreed to a standard deposition. That's what a standard deposition is. Every time I've come out here for a press gaggle with you all, we've had a standard deposition. So this is how depositions work, and it will be made public. So they want a public deposition. This is what they're going to get.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you about...
Wow.
Mr. Chairman,
Chad.
Your investigation about Ilhan Omar, why are you targeting her when there is a Ilhan Omar, your committee investigation with Ilhan Omar, when there is a process in the House and people have questions about their conduct, this would go through the ethics committee. Why is this?
And I've spoken, I'm glad you asked that question. I've spoken with the ethics committee. The ethics committee has jurisdiction over members of Congress. The 2 businesses in question are owned by Ms. Omar's husband. So the ethics committee does not have jurisdiction over a spouse, only a member. So that's why we just asked, we would have questions. I don't think anyone would.
It would pertain to her overall finances, because that is listed on her financial disclosure report.
Well, we've run this by the ethics committee, and we think this is the appropriate route. So, and we'll do one more question. Yes.
Yes, just going back to the Clinton deposition, sorry for speaking. I understand that you're going to release the transcripts, you'll release the video. Why is there reticence to just have it be public, since the Clintons, look, they are not your typical
when you say public, what do you mean? I mean, it's going to be the video, and we'll release it. The public will see every second of the deposition. I think they're trying to muddy.
But it said absolutely nothing.
What, a few seconds later? I mean, I think the Clintons are trying to muddy the waters and create a false narrative, like depositions behind closed doors. That deposition was behind closed doors, but you had at least 10 members of Congress in there, and you'll have the video, I hope, very soon. Yes. Go ahead. All right.
Ghislaine Maxwell, we know from the Epstein files, didn't tell the truth. She got moved to an open prison. Now she's asking for clemency to speak at all. Was it a mistake to move her to that prison? Should she be moved back?
I don't know the rationale for moving her from one prison to the other, but look, initially she had asked that the oversight committee grant immunity, and when we met with the survivors,
we need 15 more likes, guys. Double tap that screen.
According to the survivors, and you know, we had 20-some members in that meeting, that Maxwell was a very bad person, and she committed a lot of crimes. And it was the intent, in my opinion, when we left that meeting in a bipartisan manner, that we would not grant immunity. Now, what she said today, she's asked for clemency from the president. So I personally, for the reasons you just stated, don't think she should be granted any type of immunity or clemency. But we'll obviously, you know, as more documents are read and understood, then we'll go from there. But I'll close with this. I think it's great that the Department of Justice has let members of Congress come in and look at all the unredacted versions of the documents. Attorney General Bondi is doing what she was supposed to do via our subpoena first on the House Oversight Committee, as well as the Epstein Transparency Act. So I think we're finally going to get some answers, and hopefully at the end of the day, we can do what our objective is in this hearing, provide justice for the survivors. So thank you.
All right, so there you have the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, explaining what's going on right now. Ghislaine Maxwell pleading the fifth, refusing to answer questions before his committee.
That's right. And he also, there was also mention of what the attorney for Ghislaine Maxwell said at the very beginning, saying that neither Presidents Trump or Clinton are culpable for any wrongdoing. So that's from Ghislaine's attorney, but Ghislaine herself pleading the fifth. And he was asked about the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell was moved by this administration to a minimum
absolutely nothing transparent.
Of course, she's asking for clemency from President Trump to speak to the committee. And you heard there the Chairman Comer say, I don't understand the rationale for moving her, but of course he didn't weigh in on whether that was the right move or not. So that is what we just heard there was important, and we're also expecting more testimony, depositions. 5 witnesses or people who will be going before the committee, including the Clintons, in the coming weeks. So
Hillary Clinton first, then Bill Clinton.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll both be coming before the House Oversight Committee, and the
Clintons will be talking.
At this point, he said, we have many questions for these individuals who have been subpoenaed to come forward, and our goal is justice for the survivors. That was his point. He kept making that point.
And the survivors, they still feel like
justice for the survivors, guys. But that wasn't it, man. It was plenty people on Capitol Hill speaking out about this whole entire situation. Let's check this out.
That minimum security prison. What we did get was another episode in her long-running campaign for clemency from President Trump. And President Trump could end that today. He could rule out clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell, the monster. He could rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, the monster. The question for all of us today is, why hasn't he done that, and why won't he do that?
Is there a conspiracy of silence?
Hold on. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Suha Subramanian.
Yeah, let's get those lights up, guys.
Just to reiterate, Ghislaine Maxwell should have no hope of ever getting out of prison. But today, she, through her lawyer, explicitly stated that she wants to be out of prison through a clemency that this president would grant. And she is campaigning over and over again to get that pardon from President Trump. And this president has not ruled it out. And so that is why she's continuing to not cooperate with our investigation. The reality is that she is a monster. She should be behind bars. She should stay there. She should answer our questions, but she is not willing to do so because she is looking for that pardon and looking to absolve any people related to this administration. So we will continue to call for this president to completely rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell. I'm going to hand it over now to the representative from Texas, Ms. Crockett.
Thank you so much. Listen, as an attorney, I was wondering exactly where all we were going with her planning to invoke the Fifth Amendment. You know, Fifth Amendment is about self-incrimination. We all know that she has been finally convicted. She has exhausted all of her appeals. But they've decided to file a writ of habeas corpus. In my opinion, they have filed this writ of habeas corpus just to use it as an excuse to not answer more questions because, again, we know that she's a monster. We know that a jury was able to listen to all of the evidence and find that she should be found guilty. And even Donald Trump's Supreme Court.
Absolutely.
Which that is saying a lot. Even his Supreme Court has decided to affirm every single thing that took place on the trial level. So the fact that this woman is continuing to invoke the Fifth Amendment tells us exactly what my colleagues have already stated. She is a monster. She does not care. She has no remorse. She is not seeking to bring about some kind of closure for these women. She doesn't care. And frankly, it seems like this administration overall does not care. All they care about is protecting the powerful and protecting pedophiles. They will do anything to distract from that, including deciding to put up in the middle of Black History Month.
That is crazy, guys. That is crazy. For some reason, she most definitely invoked the fifth, though, and they allowed it.
Most racist thing that we've ever seen come out of a White House. But I am here to tell you that House Democrats, specifically on the Oversight Committee and the Judiciary Committee, as we do have Pam Bondi coming before us here in a minute, we will not be deterred. We will not be distracted. We know who it is that needs to be held accountable, and we will go in and we will make sure that we continue to dig.
No, this is not AI.
Because his co-conspirator decided that she was going to try to play games with us this morning. I got news for you, Ms. Maxwell. We're not done. We're going to continue to go. And it is my hope that this court resolves this sham of a, I don't even know what to call it, this scam of a maneuver that she has filed in court. That is what we will call it. We hope that that is resolved quickly and we can bring her on back since we're not physically moving her. She's still in her cushy jail cell down in Texas. We will bring her back so that she can answer questions and hopefully finally start to answer questions truthfully. And now I'm going to pass it over to my good friend out of New Mexico, Ms. Stansberry.
All right, well, good morning, everyone. It is Monday, February 9th. We are just walking out of the deposition with Ghislaine Maxwell after the House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed Ms. Maxwell to speak to the committee in our ongoing bipartisan investigation into the crimes of Jeffrey Epstein and to hold those accountable who have not yet been investigated and convicted of those crimes. As was evidenced this morning, Ghislaine Maxwell did not provide information to the committee and instead invoked her blanket Fifth Amendment rights. While we are not able to speak to the specifics of what was said within the deposition until the deposition record is made public, it is very clear that she used this opportunity to not only campaign for clemency as she has been doing, but also to send a direct message that she is hoping that people who were sitting in the deposition will transmit to the President of the United States, which is that her silence can be...
They're talking about the Epstein files and Ghislaine Maxwell. She had a deposition where she pled the fifth all the way through. And now basically the Democrats, you know, they are basically giving their take on what she has done. That was for you who said, can somebody catch me up? I don't know what's going on. Now you know. Double tap that screen if you have not and hit that like button. Or click the three dots, hit the thumbs up. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
Through clemency. It is very clear that that is the message that she is trying to send directly to Donald Trump himself. Directly. She is telling Donald Trump through her deposition that she is trying to buy her clemency. Now, she did state that she is taking and invoking her Fifth Amendment rights because of a pending habeas petition before the Southern District of New York. But let us be clear. Her case appeals have already gone to the United States Supreme Court and they have been denied. She is not being released from jail unless, of course, Donald Trump buys what she's selling. So we want to be clear that she is exactly where she's supposed to be in terms of her conviction, and she needs to go back to the prison where she belongs. Now, we have a lot of questions for Ms. Maxwell with regards to what actually happened in Epstein's affairs, who was directly involved in the sex trafficking, money laundering, and influence peddling scheme that she and Jeffrey Epstein were involved in, how Donald Trump was involved and whether or not he committed any crimes himself, as did his many associates who are named in the Department of Justice files. Let us be clear that Donald Trump is not only named thousands of times in the latest release from the Department of Justice, he is named over 38 100,000 times in the files that were released 2 weeks ago alone. And we know that that only represents half of the files that the Department of Justice has in its possession, including files that were used for direct investigations of perpetrators, people who committed crimes, people who were co-conspirators in those crimes, and individuals who knew of those crimes. We know that there are multiple administration officials, including Howard Lutnick, Elon Musk, who served as the appointee to the names out there, efforts in the White House. We know that the Secretary of Navy. We know that Steve Bannon. We know that there are more than 36 associates, family members, and individuals directly associated with Donald Trump named in those files. Now, there are now at least 9 or 10 other countries across the world that have opened investigations or forced their leaders to step down because of their mere association with Jeffrey Epstein. And the United States government is engaged in an active cover-up of the largest sex trafficking scandal and influence peddling scandal in the history of the United States, and Donald Trump is right at the center of it. And the person who is living to provide the evidence, who knows what is going on, is trying to invoke the Fifth to buy her clemency. So let's be clear on what we saw here today. This was an effort to essentially try to secure her pardon by keeping her mouth shut. And we will not allow this silence to stand.
Let's go.
It was announced late last week that the Department of Justice would allow members of Congress to view the unredacted files of the files that have been released, and many of us will head to the Department of Justice today to look at the memos and internal documents of Department of Justice that were...
And what's crazy is, spoiler alert, when they got there, they got more redacted files, guys. When they went to where they were supposed to go to see the files unredacted, they saw more redacted files. Wow.
Removed from the website to understand why names of survivors were unmasked and why and who the Department of Justice is shielding as they have redacted files that include perpetrators and co-conspirators. And with that, we will stand for questions.
Can you talk about if there was a conversation around Howard Lutnick, for example? I know Comer said he didn't want to disrupt the other 5 depositions that they have scheduled, but I don't know how even just trying to speak to Comer would disrupt the other 5. So I wonder if you could help us understand.
With regards to this deposition, or
with regards to any future deposition with Howard Lutnick or some of the others that you described?
The committee is keeping an ongoing list of individuals we would like to subpoena. It's really important for folks to understand that in order for us to subpoena anybody, the majority has to consent. And so while we appreciate that there is bipartisan cooperation in this case, we have a whole list of individuals we would like to subpoena before the committee that they have not consented to. Of course, we would like to speak to Secretary Lutnick, and I personally believe that Mr. Lutnick needs to step down immediately.
Ma'am, what is your message to survivors amid this sort of wall of silence that we've seen today from Ghislaine Maxwell?
Our message to survivors is that we are here to bear witness, to fight for justice, and to fight for convictions.
Yeah, I mean, we're standing with them. We have been in communication with those survivors that are really, there are a certain number of survivors that are really more involved than others, and they are standing for their fellow other survivors. They're out front. We are standing with them, and we are telling them that we're not going to back down, which is why we're very clear about the fact that, yes, this took place today, and basically Ghislaine was like, I'm not going to participate, but we're not going to stop. You know, there were those that thought we would stop when we were able to get the discharge petition done. There were those that thought we were going to stop when it didn't seem like we had the votes once we finally got that done. I mean, the House Speaker shut the House down so that we would not go there, right? And now that they have violated the law, because this is actually in law, we are not stopping. So I want people to understand that House Democrats, we are going to be on their asses. Like, that's just the reality.
Yeah, we on their butts.
What is your message to President Trump in that case?
Same thing. We're going to be on his ass. I mean, you know, it is so, I don't really know where we are in this country. Why are we even having this conversation? The United States is falling apart right now. partially because he's going out and randomly allowing for the killings of people in the middle of the street. But the other part of it is that we have a 34 count convicted felon, and there are people that are still shielding him from any type of accountability as it relates to a child sex trafficking ring. It is time to take the blinders off. Like, I don't understand why we are pretending like any of this is normal. And I think that that is the level of frustration that so many people are bringing, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, or independent, specifically to the Epstein file situation. Because right now we know that they were willing to try to throw the Clintons in prison for not showing up, yet they won't even allow us to bring other people into committee who we know are mentioned in these files and mentioned so much more. When we went through the hearing as relates to the Clintons, I said, listen, we know that Donald Trump's name is mentioned more. Bring him in too. Like, I'm not saying that this should be partisan. This should be whoever. I want to be clear about that. This, for the Democrats, this isn't partisanship. This is about right versus wrong.
I just want to say, with respect to the survivors, I spoke with a survivor this morning. Many of them are on Capitol Hill today at the Judiciary Committee hearing. And what I said to her is,
they want the files unredacted.
Is for members of Congress, Democrats and Republicans, to show just a tiny bit of the courage that the survivors have shown. If we can find it, if our Republican colleagues can find just a little bit of courage when the survivors have demonstrated incredible courage throughout this ordeal, we can make progress and get the transparency they're asking for.
You and then you, go ahead.
Can I just ask, the Epstein files could possibly bring down a British Prime Minister. Why do you think that is happening there, but it's hardly politically hurting an American president?
Well, I think it's important to note that right now, the Congress is controlled by Donald Trump's allies. And our Speaker of this House preferred to keep the House of Representatives shut for more than 40 days so that we could not advance the Epstein Files Transparency Act. He is being actively shielded by members of his own party, whereas in other countries, including the UK, members of parliament are demanding accountability. And that is why our plea is to the American people. We need to hold these people accountable. And my message to Donald Trump is, we're coming for you. We are not moving on.
I'd like to ask you just a couple of things. First of all, about the demeanour of Ghislaine Maxwell. What did she say? How did she look? Can I also ask, we've heard from your committee before that you want to hear from the former Prince Andrew and from Peter Mandelson. Do you think there are questions for the broader British royal family, King Charles?
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell was once again unrepentant. She was very robotic. And she was not at all.
Somebody says she sounded like a robot.
The fifth today, I think.
Said she was
this
very
is all
robotic.
strategy for her to try to get a pardon from President Trump, and she has never shown any remorse for the victims in this entire case.
As it relates to so as it relates to that part, I think that we want to speak to anyone who has information. Now, again, being an attorney, it's been quite frustrating that the Department of Justice has continued to hold files against the law and against the subpoenas, right? But what you would normally do is you would start with the evidence. So it's a matter of us taking a look at the evidence and trying to see who it is that is involved in this very tangled web. I think that we should speak to anybody, even if that means that we go that high. Now, do I have any evidence to suggest that there's anything there at this moment? Not necessarily, but I do want to see everything. And I will be clear about this. When we had our large roundtable where we talked to so many survivors, they did say that this has impacted high levels of government across the world, not just in England. They talked about multiple other countries. And so for us, we want to follow this because for all I know, we know that Epstein is gone, but does it mean that the ring is gone? Because of the sophistication in the way that this was set up, we need to make sure that we're not only fortifying our democracy here, but we need to make sure that there's not some cabal that is operating currently and still engaging in this type of behavior. And I think that is why it's so important that these survivors have come forward in this moment, because we don't know that it's not continuing to go on right now. We just know that Epstein is gone. We know that Maxwell is gone, but it wasn't just the two of them. And I think that is why it is important that we review those files, and anyone that we feel like is involved based on the files, based on the evidence.
They still hiding, y'all. Say, let's go.
So we're gonna take 2 more questions.
So Congressman Biggs came out and said that Maxwell's lawyer said that she had no indication that either President Trump or President Clinton were implicated in any wrongdoing. Wondering if you'd confirm that you heard that, but also how you evaluate that statement given some of the comments you're making about her clemency plea.
We'll take your question and then we'll answer and wrap up.
I just wanted to ask what you all make of Congressman Comer's back and forth with the Clintons on closed-door tape deposition versus public testimony, and if you're worried that this might derail what's going on right now and lead Republicans back to pursuing contempt.
Yeah, on the Clintons and Trump, she did say that she is happy to talk on the record to confirm that there was no wrongdoing on their part. I think that is part of her campaign, again, to get a pardon and get support from both parties. That's why she's mentioning Clinton too as well. But they were very explicit on saying she'd love to talk on the record to absolve the Clintons and Trump.
I'd say about the back and forth part of things, Secretary Clinton made it clear. If you want to do this, let's do this out front and in the open, right? And it seems like they don't want that to happen, because what they want to do is they want to go behind closed doors and then come out with whatever spin that they want to put on it and have it be a he said, she said. I also do believe that this is yet another way of them trying to distract and hopefully trying to get Democrats to say, well, never mind, we don't want to talk about it if you're going to go after the Clintons. Again, for us, this is not about partisanship. This is right versus wrong. And frankly, we've not seen anything that would have made me believe that Secretary Clinton, of all people, should be coming in front of them in the first place. So this is about getting to the truth for us. And we understand that if there are names mentioned, that we should follow that evidence. But we do know that Comer is playing games, because if he really wanted to get to the bottom, you would start with the person that actually has the information, which would be Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is the first person that should have came in front of our committee to answer questions about why it is that she violated our subpoena. Instead, he's ignoring her violation. And then once we ended up with the Epstein Transparency Act, she has violated the law as it relates to that. And he still doesn't have anything to say. So I want people to be very clear-eyed. They are playing games right now. And this is all about shielding and distracting from the President of the United States, who is absolutely mentioned in those files. And frankly, we know that he had already been sued prior to him ever entering office, where there were allegations that he sexually molested a child. This is on the record. Now, granted, the case didn't go through and whatever, but we know that the allegations were there way before he even took office the first time.
And I'll just wrap this very briefly and just say this. The Clintons are cooperating. There are no grounds whatsoever at this point for any kind of contempt motion. Their deposition is scheduled, as far as anyone knows, it will occur. I just want to say this. The fact that Andy Biggs walked out of that room and delivered the message that Ghislaine Maxwell wanted was exactly what she wanted to send to Donald Trump. Clearly, he was acting as her messenger, because we were told explicitly to not repeat things that were said in that room. It's very clear she's campaigning for clemency, and it's very clear that Mr. Biggs delivered the message to Donald Trump.
Are they passing messages? So they feel like they was passing messages within that deposition, guys. Now remember, they said that the lawyers for some of the victims of Epstein basically went to Capitol Hill to see, or wherever they holding the files at, to see them unredacted, and got more redacted files.
Some of the senders on that, 6 men that have been redacted that are likely incriminated by their inclusion in these files. So that's the first thing that I saw. It took some digging to find them. Then I'll let you talk about what you saw.
Well, and we discussed that. I mean, there are 6 men, some of them with their photographs, that have been redacted, and there's no explanation why those people were redacted. And Thomas discovered it through his MIT logic with some of the searches. But, that's really concerning. I think there are 2 other points. One is some of the internet concern about some of the more sensational emails. I mean, I do think it's important to recognize that some of the senders on that are women. And so some of the redactions may be appropriate, some may not be appropriate. We need to look at that. But just because there's an email out there, it doesn't mean that there's necessarily an improper redaction. The bigger concern is these 6 individuals. I will say that the staff was very professional in allowing us to do the searches.
Now,
Our bigger
this is the
concern
lawyers
that there's
for
still
the
a lot
victims,
that's
guys.
redacted. Even in what we're seeing redacted versions. I thought we were supposed to see the unredacted versions, and that's because the documents produced to justice from the FBI, from the grand jury, was redacted when they got it. So we kept doing the searches for the unredacted information. And it's the identical redactions that they have. Now, I don't think that's nefarious on the career attorneys that were reviewing it, but they obviously haven't gotten the production because our law says that the FBI and the original grand jury needs to be unredacted.
Right. The U.S. attorneys and the FBI are compelled, as well as the DOJ, and the DOJ was responsible for this document production, and they just produced documents that have been given to them from the FBI, the 302 forms, for instance, which need to be unredacted. There was one other thing that definitely needs to be addressed. Some of these files have been taken down, like the DOJ produced them, and for some reason they took them down. Maybe they decided that victims' names were in there and that they needed further redactions. But those documents not only haven't been put back up on the site with the appropriate redactions, they were not available to us to search. As far as I could tell, we couldn't search the documents that had been taken off the internet.
Can you share with us the name of the 6 men that you identified?
I probably should do that from the floor or in a committee hearing.
And look, they should be releasing these documents. We have many avenues where we can compel that legally. Maybe they've done it out of oversight. I don't know. I don't believe that. But, they should be releasing those documents. And our hope is to get them to do that. And then in some of the redactions, they need to be very careful in whether that was a survivor or not. Just because, for example, someone is female doesn't necessarily mean they're survivors. And it seemed like they blanket redacted anyone who was a female from my review.
Yeah, I would like to give the DOJ a chance to say they made a mistake and over-redacted and let them unredact those men's names. That would probably be the best way to do it.
So you go to a place where you're supposed to see unredacted files and get redacted files, guys. It most definitely appears to be some form of a cover-up. I'm just saying.
You said that the documents, some of what you saw in there had redactions. How much new information then did you see that was unredacted, or did it look pretty similar to what we've seen publicly?
I mean, what we're after is the men who Jeffrey Epstein trafficked women to. We want those names published. We're not out to embarrass people. And the problem is, we went in there hoping to see that in 302 forms. What we found out is those 302 forms were redacted before they got to the DOJ. But our legislation directs the FBI, which is the agency that produced those 302 forms, to also produce these documents. The Attorney General is ultimately responsible for that production, so that's why we're here at the DOJ to view these files. But there needs to be more information given in those 302s. So I was disappointed we didn't find that. But it's also clear, just sort of as a checking their homework, that they need to do a little more homework. There are 6 men. We went in there for 2 hours. There's millions of files, right? And in a couple of hours, we found 6 men whose names have been redacted, who are implicated in the way that the files are presented.
What's your message to Pam Bondi after what you saw today?
Need to do a little more work. And we'll see her at the Judiciary Committee here in a couple days.
At the very least, these 6 men, maybe she can make public. I mean, we're happy to provide the information to them, and they should do that. Look, there's some of the effort, because there were a lot of career attorneys on there. There's some redactions that were appropriate, for protect the survivors. And some of the most sensational things out on the internet, there may have been appropriate redactions. So, for Thomas and me, it's always been about the facts. And our biggest concern is what was redacted before it even came to the Justice Department. I mean, the reality is that the most important things, the 302 files and some
We're
of
all
the
redacted.
information on the prosecution memos, it's unclear that those redactions happened here.
Yes.
We saw a lot of files.
There are 6 million files to be exact, country. We only got 3 million. But there's 6 million files within within the Epstein files. 3 million have not been released.
Already were redacted. And then, of course, they have been protecting some of these men. Maybe it was not intentionally, but the law is very clear. They need to comply with the law.
And finally, the documents that they put up and decided for one reason or another they had to take back down, I was hoping to see those here. They didn't appear to be in the database that we were able to search. For those ostensibly are wholly redacted files now. We know they exist. They published them for a brief period of time and pulled them back. They need to answer to us as to do they intend to redact those files and put them back up and put them in the database so that we can search them and see if it was appropriate to take them back down from the website.
Are these men U.S. citizens? What fields do they work in? Is it finance? Is it political?
At least one is a U.S. citizen. At least one is a foreigner. And the other 3 or 4 have names. I'm not sure if they're foreign or U.S.
And which field do they work in? Is it finance, banking, political?
One is pretty high up in the foreign government.
And some are, they're, one of the others is a pretty prominent.
Let's take time to double tap that screen, guys. Let's get the lights up. If you're on a mobile device, double tap your mobile device screen, guys. Or click the 3 dots in the right-hand corner, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. I wouldn't keep asking you to do it, guys. As we listen to the attorneys for the victims of Epstein say they went to go view unredacted files, guys, and got there. And all they got was redacted files. That's crazy.
Individual. But I think that the point is that these 6 are just what we found in 2 hours of a review of the files that aren't redacted. The broader issue is why so many of the files they're getting are redacted in the first place. And until that becomes unredacted, the main things that they're sending to the career attorneys to review, I don't think we're going to have full compliance with the law to get to the question that most Americans want to know. Who were the rich and powerful people who went to this island? Did they rape underage girls? Did they know that underage girls were being paraded around? And after seeing this, I don't blame the U.S. attorneys, the assistant U.S. attorneys reviewing it. If they're reviewing redacted material, what are they supposed to do? But they're getting, it seems like, material that's already been redacted.
Congressman Raskin also viewed these materials earlier, and he said that he saw President Trump's name redacted, he saw Lee Wexler's name redacted. Did you see President Trump's name redacted, Lee Wexler's name redacted? Can you share anything about that?
I didn't put Donald Trump in the search engine, so I couldn't tell you.
Did you Why not?
The email about the little girl who was, quote, a little naughty?
I did, and that was a woman that wrote that. And so it may be proper to redact it, and it may not be. I don't know. It seems like part of their algorithm for redaction was just to redact every woman in there, pretty much.
Yeah.
So we can't parse if the person who sent that was a victim or not.
Look, none of this is designed to be a witch hunt. And just because someone may be in the files doesn't mean that they're guilty. But there are very powerful people who raped these underage girls. It wasn't just Epstein and Maxwell, or showed up to the island, or showed up to the ranch, or showed up to the home, knowing underage girls were being paraded around, and some of the sickening stuff in there about the violence. And what we want to do is have the investigation to get to those people, to answer those questions. Not to say that every internet rumor about some email is going to be true. And like I said, in some of the cases, the redactions may have been appropriate. But for Thomas and me, it's never been about getting Donald Trump or getting Bill Clinton or scoring political points or trying to destroy people's reputations. It's about actually getting justice for these survivors.
Do you plan to read the 6 names on the House floor?
I think we need to give the DOJ a chance to go back through and correct their mistakes.
How long do they have to do that? How long do they have to redact these files?
They're already breaking the law. Look, they're way past the deadline. And the reason they gave for taking so much time is so they wouldn't release victims' information. But in fact, they've released all kinds of victims' information. So the problem here is not the deadline. The problem is they need to go back. They need to themselves check their own homework or have somebody else check it. And as Rose said, they need to go to the U.S. attorneys and the FBI, who are compelled by the legislation directly to produce that material to them unredacted.
And I think, look, we could have brought contempt or impeachment weeks ago, but our interest is in actually getting the information out. And as a result of the strategy we've been pursuing, this is the largest release of the Epstein files in history. Now, it's not enough, but it has exposed people in the highest levels in technology, in finance, in real estate. It has exposed the establishment and monarchies in other countries. So our push is, how do we expose this and have accountability, not how do we score political points or have retribution.
What questions are you going to ask him on this?
Well, he's on the committee.
We'll see Wednesday.
You said a lot of the redactions were already made before the files were intended to clear attorneys. Who do you suspect who made those redactions?
It seems that they were made by the FBI or they were made by attorneys in the grand jury, but the Justice Department, it seems, got some of these documents already redacted. Our law was very clear. Unless something was classified, it required it to be unredacted, and they have not complied with that law, and that law needs to be complied with, because that's where a lot of the information is, especially about the powerful people in this country and what their involvement was. And their involvement could have been that they were showing up at this island knowing that there was pedophilia taking place. Their involvement could have been that they were actually engaged in raping underage girls, or knowing that underage girls were being raped. We won't know until we see those files.
What information
was Maxwell and her lawyers, Stephen, say?
Men were implicated in Epstein's crimes.
It's a list of 20. You can actually, I'll direct you to the unredacted, or the redacted file. It's a list of 20 individuals. 3 or 4.
Can we get 200 on that like button, guys? We need 30 more likes. Double tap that screen if you have not on your mobile device. As we find out, basically that representative lawyers for the victims of Epstein went to the place they were supposed to go to see unredacted files and got a lot of redacted files, guys. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new as well.
Maxwell and Epstein are on the list. And maybe 1 or 2 other people, and everybody else is redacted, and their names are redacted, but it also includes 20 pictures, 20 photographs, and they're sort of mugshots. They're not the best pictures. I'm not sure if they were mugshots or not, but there are at least 3 or 4 males in the photographs. I couldn't verify by looking at their names because they have foreign names. I couldn't verify by looking at their names that they were male until I went and looked at the photographs. By the way, in the document I'm directing you to, the photographs are redacted and their names are redacted. There is no reason in our legislation that allows them to redact the names of those men, as far as I can tell.
Unless there are any male survivors, which seems hard to believe given this issue. But and all the women that are redacted, it's unclear if they were just actual survivors, in which case they did the appropriate thing, or whether they just, as Thomas said, had an algorithm to take out any woman's name.
There's also hold on a second. There's also an FBI form that lists people who are conspirators, and one of those is a male. It's like on an FBI form, they've redacted his picture and his name on that form where they were, I guess, considering an indictment or indicting or something. I could also, I don't have the number in front of me, but I could direct you. It's a 3-page EFTA file. I'm not sure if they're mugshots.
Were authorities investigating these individuals, or
in one instance it was, and in the other instance it seemed to be.
I've got to go. I'll let Thomas.
No, I gotta go.
All right.
One question, one last question for you, Congressman Kona. Congressman Massey has called for Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to face potentially some accountability for the connection that he has in these files. Do you support that call?
Absolutely. Look at what's happening in Britain. You have a left government. Actually, I know Keir Starmer. I was excited when he won, and yet I believe he needs to be held accountable with what's happened with Mendelssohn. You have the British monarchy having to answer questions. I mean, the King of England is putting out statements. And yet in our country, we have not had that reckoning. People in power, whether they're in government, whether they're in finance, whether they're in technology, if they have been implicated in the files in morally embarrassing ways and in ways that shock the conscience, should be held accountable. And it should be regardless of party.
So you're calling for Howard Lutnick to resign?
I believe that Lutnick, at the very least, needs to be brought before Congress. I think, based on the evidence, he should be out of the cabinet. But, you know, I mean, people say, oh, you're just a Democrat saying that. No, I mean, look at what he is, how much influence he had with Epstein, and he wasn't transparent about it. But again, it's not about Lutnick, and it's not about any particular person. In this country, we have to make a decision. Are we going to allow rich and powerful people who were friends and no problem doing business and showing up with a pedophile who was raping underage girls? Are we just going to allow them to skate? Or like other countries, are we going to have elite accountability and have accountability for the people who did that? Most Americans believe we need accountability.
Can you confirm that President Trump wasn't on this list?
No, I didn't see him on that.
All right, so we heard from the lawyers, guys, who basically say, hey, they went to where they were supposed to see a bunch of unredacted files and got a bunch of redactions, guys. Got a bunch of redactions. All right, so since we found out what we didn't get from Ghislaine Maxwell and from these, what are they, I guess, unedited files, well, what did we get? Let's go check over here with Law and Crime and see what exactly we did get from the latest dump, guys.
As someone who's been following all aspects of the Epstein saga, particularly the latest release of the Epstein files pursuant to the Epstein Files Transparency Act, the question I keep asking is, could someone else have been prosecuted? I mean, that's one of the big questions, right? Is there evidence that Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking girls to other powerful men? Well, according to the Associated Press's review of the files, the FBI says no. And we looked into it too, and based on some of the files we found, it seems that's true, that the FBI says there's no evidence. That the FBI, they looked at the bank records, they looked at emails, they interviewed victims, they searched Epstein's properties.
Do y'all think that it's crazy that they're saying that no one else can be prosecuted? What? All them names in there? Come on now.
And there is no evidence that he trafficked girls to other people. Even though, by the way, he was brought up on sex trafficking of minors charges, and then Ghislaine Maxwell was subsequently charged and convicted in her own trial. She was convicted essentially of trafficking victims to just Jeffrey Epstein. She was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and we know that Epstein died before going to trial. But it's always been, it was just to him, that he wasn't farming out or lending out girls or women to other people.
Yeah, he
now,
was.
According to this new article from the Associated Press, the FBI claims there was no videos, no photos from his places in New York, Florida, the Virgin Islands, Jeffrey Epstein's island, nothing depicting any other people abusing these girls, these victims. Here's actually a good way to describe it. There is this email to then Deputy Director of the FBI, Dan Bongino. The sender is redacted. We can't see that, but this is dated March 20th, 2025, and it states, the case agents and AUSAs, that's Assistant United States Attorneys, ensure that all videos and images from the case file and from Epstein's residences and devices were reviewed for evidence of a crime. Those reviews revealed no evidence from any of the searches we conducted or any of the files we reviewed that any videos or other images exist of any victims in this case being sexually abused. Nor did those reviews reveal any evidence that anyone other than Epstein and Maxwell participated in the sexual abuse of victims in this case. We are aware of the theory circulated in the media and online that Epstein video recorded the abuse of his victims, including by other men, but we have found no evidence to support that theory. Indeed, had we found such videos, we certainly would have used them as evidence in the criminal cases we investigated and prosecuted and would have pursued any leads they generated. We did not, however, locate any such videos. Below, please find more details about the video evidence gathered during this investigation. During the searches of Epstein's New York residence and USVI residence in 2019, United States Virgin Islands, the FBI searched for videos and surveillance cameras. My understanding from the case agent is that there were no cameras found inside any bedrooms or living areas of either residence. I understand that surveillance cameras were located near the entrances of the residences. I also understand that the surveillance systems only retain video for a limited period of days, and that the only recordings available were very recent surveillance from 2019 and would thus not have depicted anything relevant to our investigation, which focused on the 1990s and early 2000s. Accordingly, those surveillance videos were not seized because they were not responsive to the warrants allowing the FBI to seize only certain evidence from those premises. The FBI had no legal authority to seize recent surveillance videos from 2019 under the warrants issued by SDNY and USVI courts. During the searches of Epstein's residences in 2019, the FBI seized a large number of CDs, some hard copy photographs, and at least one videotape containing nude images of females, some of whom appeared to possibly be minors in their late teens. The case agents reviewed all of those images, and they were all made available to Maxwell's counsel for review and discovery. None of the images depicted sexual abuse, and none depicted any males with any of the nude females. Some of these images included nude photographs of victims who were the focus of Maxwell's trial, and we marked some of those photographs as sealed exhibits for trial.
I don't know about this, guys. It seemed like, man, listen. Clinton was in the pool with these people. They saying that there were no actual acts on any other videos or anything. Man, come on, man.
Victims are alone in these photos. Because those images contain sensitive photos of victims of sexual abuse, they have never been released publicly. As I referenced in my email to you this morning, the FBI and SDNY, Southern District of New York prosecutors, the FBI and the SDNY undertook a full review of all electronic devices seized from Epstein's residences and incident to his arrest in 2019. As part of that review, a team of FBI agents, FBI analysts, SDNY AUSAs, and SDNY paralegals divided up the review of over 1 million images and videos that FBI CART extracted from Epstein's devices. The reviewers all followed the same protocol for the review, which involved at least one member of the review team personally reviewing each image and video case. In an effort to be as broad as possible, the protocol directed reviewers to identify as responsive, among other things, any image or video depicting any female who appeared to be under the age of 30. As a result of that review, any image or video on any of Epstein's devices depicting a potential victim was identified as responsive and saved. The case agent collected and maintained a copy of all images and videos identified responsive through this search. Attached, please find the index detailing how many images and videos were identified responsive to the warrants and what designation they received under the protective order in the Maxwell case. Note that materials designated highly confidential contained nudity. Please also note that this index does not include Epstein's iPhone and 6 iPads, which were reviewed on Cellbrite using the same protocol for video images described above. Although that review identified many images and videos that were responsive to the warrants in our criminal investigation, none depicted the sexual abuse of any victim, and none revealed any perpetrator or perpetrators of sexual abuse other than Epstein and Maxwell. The Palm Beach Police Department video recorded interviews of victims at the police.
I'm back, y'all. My phone overheated. I had to turn the fan on it. My bad. Can y'all hear me? Let me know if y'all can hear me out there. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me, guys. Let me know. Can y'all hear me out there? Let me know if y'all can hear me. All right, let's go. My bad, y'all. I'm sorry. My phone overheated for some reason.
And videos seized and identified responsive during the review of Epstein's devices detailed above. Okay, here's another memo. Quote, in September 2019, FBI and SDNY met with victim Redacted. FBI and SDNY were able to verify that Maxwell recruited her and that she was being sexually abused by Epstein and Maxwell and that she recruited other minors. FBI and SDNY were not able to corroborate or verify her reports of being lent out to other men. Her statements regarding being directed to have sex with other men was inconsistent with statements made by other victims and witnesses, in particular her statements regarding being lent out to men with another victim. The other victim denied this occurring. Now, in the spirit of that, there is a July 10th, 2025 email titled, quote, response to director's call. So you wonder if this is FBI.
That's why it's important to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Just in case anything like that happens, you'll be able to click right back on the channel, guys.
Director Kash Patel, and all the names are redacted, but it says, how many victims alleged other men or women abused them? Approximately 4 to 5 victims accused other adult men sexually abused them. There was not enough evidence to federally charge these individuals, so the cases were referred to local law enforcement. Approximately 4 to 5 victims accused other adult women to have taken part in sexual abuse, threesome with the minor, including Epstein's girlfriend, who was approximately 18 to 20 years of age at the time. The girlfriend was interviewed, proffered, but it was determined there was not enough evidence to charge. Now, who that girlfriend could be, I can speculate. I'm not going to say here, but let me add this. There's a 2019 memo regarding co-conspirators or potential co-conspirators. Like, for example, French model scout Jean-Luc Brunel, who was accused of abusing women out in Europe. He died by his own hand, by the way, while awaiting trial. Here's what the memo says. Jean-Luc Brunel, owner of MC Model Agency, SDNY, is currently in contact with his attorneys and a subpoena has been served. There is limited evidence regarding his involvement. What about Les Wexner? We've talked about him before, the retail guru behind Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie & Fitch. Apparently, Epstein managed his finances at one point. He's always come up as a known associate. Quote, Leslie Wexner resides in Ohio. SDNY is currently in contact with his attorneys and a subpoena has been served. There is limited evidence regarding his involvement. Now, all of this may be very surprising and shocking when you consider the breadth of accusers who have come forward against Epstein and, of course, Epstein's connections to the rich and the powerful, and especially when we consider how many emails there are where Epstein or Maxwell converse with these individuals. And let me tell you, some of them are incredibly disgusting and creepy communications. We've covered it here on Sidebar. There has been fallout. But it doesn't mean that if you knew him or talked with him or hung out with him, that you were necessarily involved in criminal activity or even knew about criminal activity, or that there could be a successful prosecution against you. There might not be enough evidence, but obviously this conclusion by the FBI is very surprising. Now, to be clear, as outlined by the AP, there was evidence that the feds were potentially building cases against alleged co-conspirators. The big issue is a lot of those allegations couldn't be verified. And that includes, and I'm not sure if that memo I read before was referring to the late Virginia Roberts Giuffre, it might have been, because despite claiming that Epstein had coordinated her to be engaged in sex acts with other men, including former Prince Andrew, the files show investigators thought there was a credibility issue, even though they believed she was a victim of Epstein himself. They cite a memo that said no other victim was described being expressly directed by either Maxwell or Epstein to engage in sexual activity with other men. According to the AP, when investigators looked at Epstein's bank records, there was no evidence either. For example, yeah, they found payments to all of these models, but there wasn't evidence that he was engaging in prostitution of girls or women to other men. And then we have...
Yeah, he was. He was most definitely doing it. Sick, nasty.
The client list, right? This idea that circulated that Epstein kept this little black book of everyone he trafficked girls to, right? You look at the AP, they correctly note that this was confusing because Attorney General Pam Bondi told Fox News in February of 2025, when she just got into the position, that the client list was, quote, sitting on my desk right now. But then it was only a few months later in July when the FBI and the DOJ issued a memo stating that after they reviewed all of the Epstein materials, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. And that is further amplified in a December 30th, 2024 communication. All the names are redacted, but the memo does address what's known as CACHTU. This is the FBI's Crimes Against Children and Human Trafficking Unit, okay? I'll just call it the unit. So it goes like this. This is the email. Quote, the deputy asked whether our investigation to date indicates the client list, often referred to in the media, does or does not exist. Here's the response. This CACHTU, this unit, spoke to the case agent and confirmed no client list existed. An address book was entered into evidence at trial, but it is not a client list as depicted in the media. The current status of the investigation into Epstein is concluded, and the case is pending inactive. Now, the address book being something that has been in the public for quite some time, this is Epstein's contact list. Again, to be clear, doesn't mean that those people were involved in criminal activity of any kind. But obviously, this is a big conclusion. This is a big development. This is something people have been waiting for. I want to talk about it a little bit more. Can we believe this? Is there something going on behind the scenes? Let's talk about it. Let me bring in former federal prosecutor Rena Paul. Rena, thank you so much for taking the time. Does this conclusion from the FBI based on these communications, does this surprise you that there's no evidence that anybody else had been abusing girls, that Epstein hadn't trafficked any of these victims to anybody else?
Well, I think we should start by talking about this as an investigation. right? And to understand what has come out, to think about it through the lens of an investigation by the government. And the disclosures by the government as conclusions rather than the raw evidentiary material. So we're starting there. So when you ask if it's surprising, I mean, I think we have to start with the question of what we are actually seeing.
Okay, and so based on what we're seeing in these releases, and based on what we're seeing in these internal communications and emails where they say, we can't find any photos or videos of...
They're lying, in my opinion. I'm just saying, allegedly. I feel like it's plenty to go on. They just trying to save these wealthy people instead of prosecuting them like they supposed to if they were you and I common folk.
Women or girls being abused by anybody other than Maxwell and Epstein. There are those who say, how is that possible? Unless it was all rumors, unless, of course, Epstein never kept the cameras in those rooms, or he never had any evidence of anybody. He wouldn't record them. Let's just start there.
Yeah, so it seems from what I've reviewed that there's notes of there being sexually explicit material, or CSAM as they call it in the DOJ, right? So there is definitely digital evidence, it seems, from what has been reported. And in considering what that digital evidence can show, we have to think like an investigator again. So think about what may be on a hard drive, on a computer, on a phone, and what it would mean to prove whether a certain person engaged in a certain act, and whether or not that would be a recorded act, or it would just be the recording of an alleged victim that we would be seeing with no connection to anybody else.
No, of course. And there was and as we said, there's a difference, right? He had apparently this material. It just wasn't of anybody in his homes or in general abusing these individuals. And there could have been a whole case built against him just by having this materials. But again, people would say, is it surprising that Epstein didn't maintain this kind of footage and documentary evidence against other people, unless, of course, no one else engaged in any abuse of these women or these girls? Because some people would say he was so rich, he was so powerful, why wouldn't he keep blackmail material, and wouldn't it have been in his possession, and wouldn't it have been accessed by federal prosecutors and authorities if they collected all this evidence from their home? I mean, to be clear, just to set it again, when they looked at all the material, their responsive requests were quite broad. They were looking basically for anything from anybody that was under 30. So I'm going to just assume that, taking that as true, if it was there, they would have found it, and it would have been a part of the criminal cases, or it would have been part of this production release. So now we have to say, maybe Epstein never kept this. And if that's the case, somebody as rich and powerful as him, with his kind of connections, allegations that he had ties to other countries, what have you, I guess he's not the blackmailer that people thought?
Well, it's impossible for us to know, right? We're all speculating on what we're seeing that is released. But in thinking again like an investigator, which is when I'm looking at materials, large volumes of materials, and as someone who has done sex crimes investigations and routinely works on large investigations, you got to think about where evidence would lie. And we're basing what we're talking about on the reporting of what's been reported in media, what's been reported by the DOJ, and that is limited to what has been found, right, or reported to have been found. So where would evidence be stored if you were keeping it as someone who didn't want it to be found? Perhaps there are other places where it could be found and it just wasn't found.
What about the fact that the financial records don't detail any evidence of him engaging in some sort of sex trafficking?
They know how to cover it up.
You mentioned there was payments to models, but they couldn't be proven that he was soliciting them for prostitution to men. You know, the financial records can sometimes tell a lot of a case. Apparently not here.
Yeah, in many cases they can. It is not my understanding, though I think you're probably well more briefed on the Maxwell case than me, but that during that case, money transactions form the basis of that evidence. Rather, I think that was more of a grooming and recruitment theory, right? And so the question of financial records would really come more into play if there was money that was being exchanged. That's first. And second is, well, what are we talking about when we're talking about financial records again? Thinking like an investigator, we have to think about what a financial record could show us. So just because there's a transaction doesn't necessarily show us what we're looking to find, right? So you have to make sense of what the payments are for. And financial records, we also have to think about what the universe of financial records could be. Are we talking about bank records? Are we talking about crypto records? Are we talking about...
Right, let's not forget we seen Bill Gates in the Epstein files. Something about some STDs.
What kind of currency and what kind of finances are we talking about? Are we talking about cash? And which would be more traceable and investigatable as a government agency?
And that's fair. And when it came to Maxwell, it was about the idea, right? They would bring these girls in and then they would have them recruit other girls. And that was kind of the network that was being built up. From a prosecutorial point of view, from a legal point of view, somebody's looking at this and saying, wait a minute, I'm looking at these filings and they're identifying certain people or they're redacting certain other people. And they say, there's not enough evidence to charge this person or limited evidence regarding involvement. What does that mean? So for a layperson, what does that mean? Because some people would say, okay, but there's something. Shouldn't they go out and look for more? Shouldn't they begin more thorough investigations? It's not like they're saying they're completely exonerated. It's just we don't have enough to charge or we don't have enough there that they were involved. What does that mean?
When you're talking about an investigation, you have to do an investigation by a standard. So in the criminal system, that standard is beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a very high standard. So conducting an investigation in the criminal sector means, can I find evidence that certain person committed certain crime? And that's a very high standard. Not enough evidence doesn't mean no evidence. It just means that the person who is reviewing the evidence has made the decision that that evidence does not support a specific charge, that they were seeking to charge a specific person.
By the way, why, if you have alleged victims say, hey, I was lent out to other men, I was trafficked, why is that not enough? When they say there's maybe issues in the credibility, they couldn't find corroborating evidence, explain to me how that works in terms of investigating claims like that.
Yeah, so it certainly is enough for an alleged victim to say what happened to them. That is a very important piece of evidence when we talk about investigating trafficking or sexual cases. And often, as we all know, sexual assault cases occur in a place where there are two people that are in the place, the person who is the alleged victim and the person who is the alleged perpetrator. And so the words of that alleged victim are always important, not the least of which is a question about consent, coercion, what they experienced. All of that is critical, particularly if a trafficking case involves, as we saw that it did in the Diddy case, an element of coercion, right? So you need the person who was experiencing it to explain that and what they were experiencing. But that testimony alone can definitely be enough depending on what we're talking about. But we also have to talk about the corroboration of what someone says. So as an investigator, when you are building a case around two people saying different things, you look to evidence that could corroborate one or the other side of what they're saying and trying to find out if there's certain circumstantial evidence, as they would say, and as opposed to direct evidence, which is the person saying the thing, of what to corroborate what the person is saying.
And it's complicated when it said in one of the memos, no other victim has described being expressly directed by either Maxwell or Epstein to engage in sexual activity with other men. That stood out to me. I mean, what was your take on that?
These are summaries and not the underlying case file. So what we are all left to make conclusions off of summaries rather than, there's a rule in the law called the best evidence rule, when you want to look at the original thing. So we're not looking at the original evidence. We're looking at the summary of somebody saying what the evidence is and what they are interpreting that evidence to be. So because they're conclusions, that's one aspect. The other piece is that by definition from the reporting, there's material that's not included. Well, we know there's redactions, right? And there's material that is not being produced, the CSAM material, for example. So we're being asked to interpret an incomplete record here, and it's hard to make conclusions based on that.
I'm going to put you in a very difficult position, but I have to ask it because everybody's going to wonder. They're going to say, oh, this is a cover-up. They're going to say that I can't believe these memos. I can't believe these communications. They make the argument. Maybe the people who wrote them knew that it would be produced one day, so they were creating a record to say, hey, there's nothing here. There's nothing here. Can we believe that these memos, these communications, these case summaries are accurate?
I don't have an answer. I think
that's an answer in and of itself. The fact that you can't say, of course, Jesse, of course they're accurate. They're of course it would be. What's your reservation?
I mean, I think we are all speculating around information that is being received from various sources, right? So we're all drawing conclusions about incidents that happened that none of us looked into directly and we're not seeing the totality of the evidence of. So it's really hard to say.
Here's the thing, though.
Conclusions we can draw.
for those materials that were not turned over in the Epstein release, right, that were part of an exception, they would jeopardize an active investigation, it would endanger national security, things that were not part of these millions of pages of documents that came out, that still was reviewed by federal authorities. Would I be wrong in saying they came to that conclusion, assuming it's all accurate, they came to that conclusion by looking at all that material that even wasn't part of the public release, right? There's not like somebody could say, well, they're making a conclusion based on not everything. I mean, what about the stuff that would endanger national security? The Fed still had to look at that and make the point, we can't turn this over to endanger national security. So if taking everything is true, they are in their analysis, they are in their case summary, they are in their conclusions saying, yeah, we looked at all the stuff we can't even turn over to you and we still don't see anything there, right? I'm not wrong about that, or maybe I'm wrong about that.
I think it's unusual to have such highly sensitive evidence turned over to the public in the first place.
Right.
Right. We usually get such evidence as the public through trials where someone goes to trial and evidence comes out during that trial. So this is very unusual. And in terms of the machinations of the decision making around who to charge and what to charge, those are also all often things we as the public don't have access to. So we get the information when a charge is brought, right? So we see the indictment was brought. And also remember that goes also through a grand jury as well, which is another secret proceeding. So it's very unusual to be even commenting about and speculating about what's behind the scenes of an investigation like this. And we're sort of left to best practices as investigators, best practices as people who have looked at the law and are trying to charge in a criminal system and what that means. And so, yeah, it's very hard to draw conclusions.
This is unusual that we're kind of seeing the inner workings, the thought process of the feds and prosecutors. I mean, not to get political, but one of the times that we saw this was the Mueller report and Bill Barr and whether or not the evidence there would to support charges, right? It's rare to see this. But it does bring me to what's happening, I think, starting today. It was announced that members of Congress can review the unredacted Epstein files
and all they got was redacted
Monday
files.
through
That's
Friday.
crazy.
Are they going to go in and say, wait a minute, I'm looking at this and I'm disagreeing with the FBI case summaries? I'm going to this and say, wait a minute, I see people.
Nope, they went in there and all they got was redacted files. All right, guys, you run a long time. Let's get to Nancy Guthrie, guys. This is something that's been going on for 10 days where one of the, I think it's the Today Show host, mother, guys, was kidnapped and held, and this is still being held for ransom right now. Well, the ransom deadline was yesterday. So now they're wondering if she's still alive, guys. Let's see what's going on day 10 in the Nancy Guthrie situation. Let's go here.
Line in a ransom note passed on Monday night. The FBI wrote, quote, "The FBI is not aware of any continued communication between the Guthrie family and suspected kidnappers," end quote. Also on Monday night, Savannah Guthrie put out another plea on Instagram saying she believes her mother can feel all of the prayers coming in and is still out there somewhere.
We believe our mom is still out there.
Now, some people believe this is an inside job. What do y'all think, guys? This is the lady, her mom is missing, basically being held for ransom. The kidnappers even left a ransom note. And they were demanding like so many million in Bitcoins in cryptocurrency because they're saying that it's hard to trace. So it's looking like we've passed the deadline, guys. Do y'all think this lady is still alive, her mom? Or basically, do you think that the kidnappers have taken her out the game?
We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. If you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation, and we need your help.
Again, that was Savannah Guthrie posting that late yesterday on
guys.
Social media. Here's a look at some of the billboards that are now up all across the Tucson area and elsewhere at this point. A close family friend clarifying to Fox News that Nancy Guthrie was reported missing after she was expected at a friend's house to watch a church live stream on February 1st, as she did every Sunday. When she didn't show up, the friend contacted the 84-year-old's daughter, Annie, Savannah's sister, out of concern. 14 hours after Nancy Guthrie was known to have arrived home after dinner, law enforcement then alerted that she was missing. In the meantime, the Pima County, Arizona Sheriff's Office says it is pursuing
This is a crazy situation right here.
But that still no suspects or persons of interest have been identified. The sheriff adding,
"You mean to tell me in 2026 somebody can still kidnap somebody and hold them for ransom? It's crazy."
No press briefings are scheduled in the near future unless there are any sort of significant developments that happen. Now, Mike Harrigan has more than 30 years of law enforcement experience, including as the chief of the FBI's firearms training program. He, of course, is following this as well and joins us now live to discuss all of the latest. Mike, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, thanks for having me, Josh.
Of course. And first off, I want to start by asking you, with your law enforcement experience, we're talking about decades there, explain to me what has kind of stood out to you about this investigation as it's played out over the last 10 days.
Well, it's been interesting to watch this investigation. You've seen it unfold on national TV. It's been great press coverage here, great publicity, which is key to these kind of cases, is keeping it alive and on the front burner of as many people across the country as possible in the hope of generating new leads and more information. So as we look at this, I mean, you do see a lack of information flowing
This is a sad
from law
situation.
enforcement to the press, to the American public, which to me indicates that they are working extremely hard behind the scenes and that they have a mountain of evidence and a mountain of leads that they're working through right now. And they have a tactic. There's a tactic here that we just can't know about and is likely based on what they've developed so far. They may have persons of interest, people they're focusing down on now, but for the integrity of the case, they have to keep that extremely close hold to the vest, especially the fact that there's a woman here, vulnerable woman, who's missing, who the ultimate hope is to get her home alive.
And you're looking at some of the video just seconds ago. We saw it there as they were searching what appeared to be maybe a septic tank there outside the home. Is that fairly standard? Because again,
this is currently what's going on today, guys. This is what's going on today in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, guys. It's past the ransom day, guys. One day past. Officials are afraid she may not be alive. Her daughter put out a message to the people to show them a sign of life, you know, when it comes to her mother, guys. We have yet to hear anything from the people who got her for ransom. You know, it's crazy.
Talking, I want to say it was day 8 of the search when we saw that happen. So is that fairly standard?
Absolutely. And I think that points to the diligence and the expertise going on the investigative side. Because one trap you could fall into in these cases is assuming that something happened, a particular theme, such as that she was moved out of the area, moved to another state, or she's being held at a remote location. The fact that they're continually checking close to the house and they check the septic system, that's good due diligence on their part. Because even though you may have a feeling or a thought or even information that she was moved out of the area, you can't discount the fact that she could have been left fairly close to that residence, or she could have been abandoned in the nearby terrain or other areas near there. So the fact they're doing that, I think, is outstanding.
I want to take some of this video here once again that is coming into our newsroom. Of course, want you to pay very close attention to these photos of Nancy Guthrie that were posted by Savannah, her daughter there, on Facebook. Now, you kind of touched on this off the top, but when investigators have not publicly identified suspects or persons of interest there, does that definitely mean that they don't have someone in mind?
You know, absolutely not, Josh. I think what it means is there's two sides to that. Sometimes they don't have information to give out. In a case like this, it's more likely that they have actionable leads. They have an investigative direction that they're pursuing. And this is an extremely sensitive time in the case. Because again, on one side, you have a woman, vulnerable woman who's missing. And as time goes on, the threat to her life, just being away from her medicine, wherever she's being held, is extremely high. On the other side, you have individuals that may be involved with this, in which law enforcement has to gather the evidence to get to the probable cause threshold to make an arrest, make an apprehension, but they have to carefully balance that between the recovery of this woman, which is paramount, versus the building of evidence and the apprehension of who's responsible. You always want to, in a missing persons case like this, or an active kidnapping case, you always want to, it's a priority of life. It's the life of the person that's missing is the priority. So everything, every tactic, every communication has to be focused on ensuring they don't endanger her or they don't in any way spur the kidnappers to do something very bad to her.
One thing that's been talked a lot about, these ransom notes that were sent to TMZ and to local media stations there. What stood out to you about what we know so far about what is in those ransom notes? But on that same note, how exactly do law enforcement officers go about essentially determining if a letter like that is legitimate?
That's a great question, Josh. And I think that's what is at the crux of this, is when there's a communication in a kidnapping case, the investigators always, the number one thing is authenticate it. You have to make...
Hold up. We got breaking news. Let me stop this real quick. It seems that they have put out a $50,000 reward for the return of Nancy, guys.
Her family is now issuing a new plea for her safe return, saying that they are in the hour of desperation. It has been 10 days since the mother of Today's Show, co-host Savannah Guthrie, vanished from her home near Tucson, Arizona. Investigators say that Savannah, right now, Savannah herself is now appealing to the public for help. As the FBI confirms, there are still no suspects and no new messages from Nancy's apparent abductors. CBS News reporter Andres Gutierrez is following the story on the ground for us in Tucson this morning. Andres, it's the first morning in this investigation where there are no longer any apparent ransom deadlines. Bring us up to speed on where things stand.
Well, Vlad, it definitely does feel like there is a lull in this investigation. Authorities say there has been no new contact from whoever claims to have Nancy Guthrie. There has been no new messages, no proof that she's alive, no follow-up after those two ransom deadlines passed. The FBI does say that they do have agents following up on tips. They're rechecking evidence, and they're expanding their presence here in Tucson. A full command post is active. They're working around the clock, but without any new communication. The progress moving forward is really depending on the forensics as well as new information that is coming in. And that's where experts say patience becomes critical in cases like this.
We often think that things are going to go smoothly. You know, you do this one thing and it's going to get you where you want to go. It's never the case. These things there's always ups and downs. There's delays. There are people involved here that, you know, the way the communication has been working, or rather not working, is so indicative of the problems of this case. So the fact that this has come and gone is not surprising.
And so while authorities have not had a news conference since Thursday, it does not mean that this case is stalled. It does mean that they will need the public's help to keep this case moving forward. Vlad?
Is trying to do now, Andreas. She's appealing directly to the public, rather than Nancy's apparent abductors. What's the significance in that?
Well, it says a lot about what this case is at this point. Savannah Guthrie, in that fourth message that she ended up posting just before this second ransom deadline was coming up, says that she ended up thanking supporters and is focused on one thing: report anything unusual, no matter how small, no matter where it happened. Investigators believe a big break in this case could happen from a tip that can confirm a time, a location, or perhaps a movement. The FBI is putting in a lot of energy and reaching as many people as possible, which is why you're going to be seeing digital billboards here in Arizona and around the Southwest featuring Nancy's picture along with that $50,000 reward that's being offered, and reminders about the FBI tip line 1-800-CALL-FBI. So again, law enforcement here going to be leaning on tips and hopes that there's going to be the right person that comes forward. Again, no small tip is out there. You can come forward with anything, and there again is a $50,000 reward being offered.
All right, Andreas Gutierrez reporting from Tucson, Arizona for us on the ground there. Thank you, Andreas. For more on this, I'm joined by CBS News Senior Coordinating Producer for Crime and Public Safety, Anna Schechter. So, Anna, we talked a little bit about how there...
So we're going to go, all right, so that was a little bit on the $50,000 reward. All right, let's go over here where they saying that a surveillance camera could have possibly caught the person who abducted Nancy Guthrie, guys. It's crazy. Check this out. This is live.
With a mask covering most of their face. You see a jacket. There's also a backpack in some of these images. And you can see that the person, if we go to the wider shot there, left hand of the person seems to be over a weapon.
Had his face covered, hands covered, everything covered. This is surveillance footage, you know, of the Guthrie home where the mom was abducted, guys. This is live. This is breaking right now.
In the waistband of their pants. I want to bring in once again Jonathan Dienst, who's been working on this for hours today. You got a sort of heads up that this might be coming. They're putting these images out because they don't know who this is.
There is apparently we can see it off of our control room computer. This is the second of 4 images that have been released by FBI Director Kash Patel. This has been taken from Nancy Guthrie's home. And so this is what they are looking at now. The third image will get one more after this from the night of the alleged incident. According to the FBI director, they've been working over the last 8 days and working with the private sector partners to continue to recover any images or video footage from Nancy Guthrie's home that may have been lost, corrupted, or inaccessible due to a variety of factors, including the removal of recording devices. The video was recovered from residual data located in back-end systems. So the systems of the providers of this is what I'm interpreting from the FBI director. He goes on to say, working with our partners as of this morning, law enforcement has uncovered these previously inaccessible new...
We need 60 more likes, guys. Double tap that screen. If you have not hit that like button, double tap the screen or click those 3 dots in the right-hand corner, hit that thumbs up, guys. It helps out the channel. Also survive if you, Also subscribe if you are new, as we get brand new camera video of the abductors of Nancy Guthrie, guys. This is the person that took her away from the home. Breaking news.
New images showing an armed individual appearing to have tampered with the camera at Nancy Guthrie's front door the morning of her disappearance. According to our timeline, that was approximately 1:47 a.m. local time when this incident occurred. There was a camera located at the front door. You can see there from the image, it is a Nest camera. Google had talked to us last week about finding these type of images.
Jonathan Dienst, this image...
Look at is these flowers, guys? These appear to be like flowers he done pulled out the yard or something, guys. I don't know what that is. It looked like a bunch of flowers, though.
The person is heavily clothed, right? There's a mask covering most of the face and the jacket. What do they want people to look at in these images? Who do they want to hear from?
Obviously, the size of the individual, the clothing and mask he's wearing. There is a gun, an apparent gun in his waistband there. You see that at his left hand that appears to be holding a weapon in his waistband. The family was notified about these images. We're told they were shown these images, and there is nothing the family or law enforcement so far, anyone recognizing who this person might be. So they made the decision to put these images out, hoping someone somewhere may recognize this individual or the clothing or the items that you're seeing in these 4 images for that tip that might...
Somebody said it looked like a female to them. Somebody said that's a female. Allegedly. Let's go.
To a break.
Really anything, Tom, that would, anyone looking at this and thinking, well, that maybe looks a little bit like someone I know, they should call that number.
Pick up the phone, 1-800-CALL-FBI, do it right now. That's what they're looking for. That's what the family has been pleading for on social media.
We need 40 more likes, guys. Please double tap that screen if you're on a mobile device, or click those 3 dots and hit that thumbs up, guys. This is the potential suspect, or the suspect, that kidnapped Nancy Guthrie, guys. Breaking news.
Yeah, give them a chance.
All right, one more reminder. If you have any information on Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, call the tip line on your screen, 1-800-CALL-FBI. We continue our special coverage of this development in a special on our streaming channel.
The second image, clearly he's showing the, wearing gloves, as it appears he's going after that Ring Nest Cam to tear it down off that front door. Again, part of the problem that some of the images, were not attainable after that camera came down. The other question that strikes me as we look at the other 2 images, again, that appear to be as he's going at that camera, is he a lone actor? Yeah, he is the only person in that, but we don't know if he traveled to this home on his own, or if he had any assistance, and how did he get here, if there's any vehicle. There's no images of that, but this, obviously, the first significant break in many days in terms of getting a possible lead, and hopefully someone out there recognizes an item of clothing, the shape of this individual.
Even the eyes. I find myself looking at, that's the only skin exposed, I believe. Everything else is covered.
Correct.
You see the eyes.
You see the eyes in that first image that we're looking at there. We've been looking at this panel of images that was just released by FBI Director Kash Patel. That first image on the left, what they'll do is they'll be able to look at the lens of this camera. They'll be able to look at the height of that archway leading into the Guthrie home. And they'll be able to actually get to a point, you're looking at the prime image right now, where you can, they'll be able to figure out the height of the approximate height of this person. The build, they'll start to be able to figure out some of those details. You know what I don't see in the background? I don't see a car.
That is true. I also want to show a shot. We've been able to zoom in on the left hand just to try to give people maybe a little bit, it's not clear, but
this
that does
the prime
look
suspect,
like
guys.
A weapon.
Jonathan was the first to point that out, just as we were getting the images in. Yes, it does appear to be a gun. I also look at the gloves and wondering if this individual is wearing multiple gloves, given the puffiness of the hands that we're looking at there. Clearly some sort of a surgical or leather type glove that we see from these images, but does appear to be a weapon in their hand. That's another interesting clue. If that's a gun, typically you hold that in your dominant hand. And there's obviously a lot less left-handed people in this country than there are right-handed. All little clues that investigators are going to be looking at as they pore over these. I'm also curious what's in his left hand in that third image, looking from left to right. Was there some sort of a decoration on Nancy Guthrie's door? But again, he seems to be reaching out with his left hand.
This is the prime
his right hand being used. Not quite clear what that's all about, but that would be more information. But right away, as soon as we had a chance to digest these images, I'm looking in that first of the images, the one we were just looking at, and it does not appear that there's a car in the background. So was that out on the street? Was that up front? Did this person know to leave the car on the street, knowing that it would be difficult to see? Did they walk? And about 15 other questions we could start to ask. So a lot of information here, but we do know that this had a semicircular driveway. We've seen from our own video. So somebody could have been able to park up close. This person clearly believed that they could not or did not, perhaps because they're aware of the security camera system.
Let me bring in our Chief Justice and National Affairs correspondent, Kelly O'Donnell. She is actually in Tucson, in Nancy Guthrie's neighborhood.
We need 17
Kelly,
more
as you
likes,
look at
guys.
these images, what do you want to point out?
Well, the first thing is I think we need a moment to just say how chilling this is. After all these days of waiting, now we have an image of someone who clearly has the tools and the dress of someone meaning to do harm. So just taking a moment to acknowledge that for the family, for the community, for the public is certainly important. Picking up on what you were saying about a vehicle, since we have been here on the ground, it would not surprise me to tell you that if there were a vehicle at the front of the home, it would not be visible at the doorway in many instances because of the vegetation. As Tom mentioned, there is a circular drive there, and clearly that bit of blacktop is somewhat visible in the picture, and this person did not have a vehicle in that space. But if there had been a vehicle somewhere on the street, it might not be visible from this vantage point, just with my amateur kind of sensory awareness of the home location. I'm also struck by the question of left-handedness. I happen to be left-handed, and I noticed that someone who is holding a weapon to the left hand, typically a dominant hand would be what you would see, or they're ambidextrous, or they have more things they've got to deal with. All of those things now become the tiniest of clues that help the public. That person's in sneakers, they're in some kind of a khaki pant, they've got a jacket that someone who has seen that jacket might be able to recognize. As Tom mentioned, being able to measure the height of this individual based on the location at the home, the angle of the camera, that seems certainly doable in the days ahead. There is also, I'm told from sources, there has been important private sector help here with the companies that are responsible for things like the specific camera or the specific software. That's a piece of this as well, and also speaks to the time and the complication that can be involved. So you've got law enforcement who are looking at things like the physical evidence at the scene, then they're looking for how do we access and get the data from camera or server or software or hardware, any of those elements. And I'm told that private sector cooperation has been important. The Pima County Sheriff has also put out its own statement that mirrors what Kash Patel and the FBI have put out. That also shows us there is coordination, and that may be part of why this has taken more time than we had at first anticipated, just to make sure that all parties who are vested in this are on the same page, have been given the same information. And I'm also told there's ongoing work to try to access more material. Can they use what they've learned here to perhaps pull out other valuable pieces of evidence? This is the first set of images we've seen.
This is about Nancy Guthrie. They have now found video of the person who abducted her, and these are the still frames from that video. So you're looking at the guy or lady that kidnapped Nancy Guthrie, guys, and held her for ransom. It is now day 10. On day 9, the ransom date basically expired, and today they are trying to get the abductors to basically give them a sign that Nancy is still alive, guys. So yeah, that's what you're looking at. Make sure you're double tapping that screen if you're new to the channel, man. That's how you hit the like button, or you can click those 3 dots, hit that thumbs up. It helps out the channel. This is live right here, you know, live coverage of what's going on as we speak on day 10, guys. Get the likes up and make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you're new.
Will certainly prompt public response. So they've got a headquarters 24 hours operating where there's the phone bank, which we've talked about the phone number. It's on the screen there as well. And so those are some of my initial impressions as we look at this. But I am most struck by how this is a piece of an answer that has been long waited for. Someone knows who that is. Someone can provide some piece of information or help to define what that person is wearing. Were they seen anywhere else? Now, businesses in the community, others with cameras can look to see if they saw someone who might have had that jacket, perhaps not wearing the full ski mask and so forth, but maybe there's a way to piece it together. And that's where everyone in the community here, as well as law enforcement, can open the aperture and look at all these events now with this fresh piece of information as a North Star to pursue the next steps. Kate?
Kelly, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I want to do 2 things. I want to show a tight shot, a closer shot that we've zoomed in. This is NBC News zooming in on 2 elements of that wider photo, Tom. So on the left side of your screen, you're seeing essentially a zoom in on the face. And on the right side, you're seeing a zoom in on the hands.
Yes, in this first image, the one on the left-hand side of your screen, in combined with another image, appears to show maybe perhaps this person has a flashlight in their mouth or something in their mouth. The image on the right-hand side is far more chilling, which appears to show a gun or some sort of a weapon.
Somebody asked why come the mouth was shining. Could he possibly have a grill in? I don't know. Somebody said braces. The news said a flashlight, but it was most definitely something that was glaring under the light, guys.
In this individual's left hand, that's the image that we're looking at on the right-hand side, did want to call attention to something our colleague Andy Blankstein, who's not here. Andy covers West Coast law enforcement. He's on the ground in Tucson for us, helping run our operations and report on it there. You know, he had mentioned the clarity of the images, and have these been enhanced in any way, or have they received any sort of additional enhancement? But look, they're very clear here. Kate, you pointed out the eyes, and I want the public to know this is not a decision the FBI takes lightly. So the FBI would have already said, you know, this is not something that you could really use facial recognition for, but the FBI would have said, do we have any other video anywhere in our investigation that we can tie back to this person so we don't have to release this image? Right. This was a big challenge with the Boston Marathon bomb, big debate, big decision about whether or not these images come out and are made public. So that's number one.
Because they don't want to impede their investigation later or the trial.
You want a chance at this moment. If the FBI had a lead to go on based on these images, they would have kept it to themselves, because they would have been able to try to get this on their own and not create what we're going to see now, which is whoever did this, they are also letting them know we have some images of you. So it's a real tricky decision. But it is a decision that is important. I think that's...
Man, that is scary, guys. This is scary. In 2025, man, they still kidnapping people and holding people for ransom.
The reason why they are so urging the public to help, because this is them saying, we've got this great clue, we've done everything we can, now we need your help there. But it is a real debate and something they think about.
If you're just joining us, we are showing you new images that were put out by the FBI Director Kash Patel, 4 distinct images here of a person that they are calling a potential subject in the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, of course, the co-host of the Today Show here on NBC. The images, as Kelly O'Donnell pointed out, are tough to look at as friends of Savannah. I mean, this is someone who pretty clearly was not intending to be identified. And in the third image there, you see wires. We assume that's him trying to disengage the camera that we now have these images from. Tom Winters with me, Jonathan Dienst with me. This may be unanswerable. Is it possible to take black and white images and turn them color? Like, would it be possible for the FBI to figure out what color jacket that is?
I think there are probably some technology that could help them with this. I was just, as I was looking at these pictures, saying, okay, you have a sense of the jacket, you have a sense of the lighter colored pants, and you look down, if you zoomed in at the feet, what appears to be sneakers, what appears to be running shoes, on top of the possible gun in the waistband there. Those are all of note, so you can figure out height, weight. At this point, you can't really determine the race of the person given the mask that they're wearing and the dark setting that this image is in. But I also, on top of what we've seen here with the flashlight, or as Thomas pointed out, the possible, the eyes, the mask, along with these sneakers, what appears to be these shoes, they seem to be, if you zoom in on it, you may be able to pick up something on that. Which may be of interest as well, certainly to investigators. And as Andy Blankstein has been filling out, now you know this army of sheriffs, army of FBI agents, army of law enforcement are going to be armed with these pictures, going back door to door, doing the canvassing,
right.
Speaking to people, going to neighboring businesses. Have you seen anyone who may have matched this? Hoping to get some sort of lead tip, not only about the individual, but was he in any sort of vehicle? And if so, what kind of vehicle was it? And was he alone? Was he with anybody else?
We are being told, I'm being told by the control room that we may be getting videos. We do not have them at NBC News just yet. but we're told
Videos are coming,
we
guys.
may
For
be
the
receiving some
suspect.
videos. Let me go to Kelly O'Donnell, who's out in Tucson for us.
That's
Kelly,
what
do
we're
you know
talking
more?
about right now, the new video.
Yeah, so directing our control room to Kash Patel's X account, there are now videos of, based on the images that we've been talking
This is
about
live,
for
guys.
this period of time that are still images. You can see movement. That, of course, is always helpful to give people a sense of a person's bearing, their gait, and so forth. You also see a bit of the movement in trying to disengage the camera and so forth. This is critical because it's also a demonstration of the ongoing work that has happened today. So when we were first given guidance to be monitoring for this, we knew there were images. That work has continued behind the scenes with the experts who are deploying this kind of skill level to first get out the first image, and the work goes on to provide these videos. This will be critical. It appears they're from the same spots that we had seen in the still images, but again, movement is helpful for people to be able to understand what was going on, have a sense of who this person might be. You see the person moving away from the doorway and so forth. So I think there's potential probative value here for law enforcement, as well as that tip quality for a person who might know this individual, have encountered them, and so forth. Just for scene setting, we know that the highest levels of the Department of Justice have fully been briefed on this. We know that the president has remained very interested and getting briefings on this. I've been out to the White House. I haven't heard a specific if he is tuned into these latest developments, but we know it has been high interest, so I have confidence that he has been alerted to this as well. That's part of the coordination that's been going on and part of this technical work. So these videos are now the latest installment on a day that is providing us with some much wanted, much expected.
Remember a while ago in the still shot, now that we had a video, I said, man, that looked like flowers or something. The news was saying wires, but this is definitely like grass off the ground.
Evidence of something, a subject who appears to be breaking into the home and certainly has an intent of some kind of ill harm toward Nancy Guthrie. And this is giving us a real sense of what that moment was like on that Sunday in the overnight hours. Just a few movements of this person gives you a sense of what that must have been like in that moment at her home. Kate?
Yeah, you used the word chilling before, Kelly. I think that is the best word to describe what we're looking at right now. I want to bring Jonathan Deans back in because we're watching this, Jonathan. It looks like perhaps this subject turns, walks, in just a moment here, walks over and maybe grabs some brush. Is that what it looks like to you? Some vegetation, and then brings that back over maybe in an attempt to block the camera?
It almost looks like he's attempting to block the camera with the shrubs or brush that he pulled from the front yard area there. What was interesting about that image that we just saw a couple moments ago is the backpack. You got a really good look at the backpack, there it is, of what he is wearing, and you sort of get a sense of lighter pants, darker jacket, the dark gloves that he's wearing, and again, the sneakers, if there's a way at some point that we zoom in, it does appear
here again, that's the vegetation.
And that's the vegetation that he was putting, it looks like he's trying to find a way to put it in front of the camera.
He has some kind of light in his mouth.
As we know from law enforcement, they explained at a later point in the evening that Ring camera, that Nest camera was removed and disabled, disengaged from the front. This clearly a major development in the sense that they now have a clue as to what went on in those early morning hours.
I see y'all down there saying he got a body like the son-in-law.
In the moments leading up to the disappearance.
And I can't tell you how critical the backpack thing can be because, you know, there's a lot of people that could wear this type of clothing. It appears to be a fairly nondescript, some sort of fleece or some sort of jacket, light-colored pants. But the fact that we see that backpack so clearly, that could be helpful. You kind of have 3 points here. You generally know, okay, well, a lot of people could wear the type of clothing, but would they also have the same type of backpack? That could be critical as well.
I want to turn now to Brianna Fox. She's with us. She's a former FBI special agent. She's currently a professor at the University of South Florida's Criminology Department. Brianna, talk us through what you see in this video and these photos.
Right, a lot. I'm so glad that we were able to get some video footage because, as others have mentioned, everything from their mannerisms, gait, the way that they hold themselves, all of that is actually far more identifiable than just the still photographs. Also, we're going to see the back. As we were waiting, I quickly ran the photos through ChatGPT just to see if we could identify brands of thin clothing that he was wearing, things that hopefully can help lead us to who this could possibly be. And I'm sure that's all what the FBI is doing now, by the way. But you could see some things on the back of the backpack, things that maybe could help identify where he was, what he where he came from. Additionally, I think that the premeditation, which is exactly what many of us predicted, is really shown here. The balaclava, the backpack, the weapon that we assume is there, all of that is really confirmed. So obviously this was done very intentionally. Somebody went there, specifically to, do something very, criminal. But we still don't know what. Was this a robbery? Did this, intend to be a kidnapping? Did something go wrong? We now have a timeline from about 1:48 a.m. to where Nancy's pacemaker disconnected, which was about 2:28 a.m. So it was about 40 minutes. Crazy. And that now it was suspected before, but now this is confirmed. There was, contact in that home for about 40 minutes, which in terms of a criminal investigation, that is a very, very, very long time.
Brianna, thank you so much. I'm just pausing for a moment because Savannah Guthrie, our colleague, has posted these photos on Instagram. She wrote, "We believe she is still alive. Bring her home." Anyone with information, please contact 1-800-CALL-FBI, the number that we have on our screen there, or the Pima County Sheriff's Department.
Now, they're saying that the person who abducted her, guys, basically took her medicine with them. At first they were saying she had medicine that she was on, that she couldn't survive without. But now they're, from what I'm hearing, that the person who abducted her also took her medicine as well. Wow.
We have a full screen we can put up to show that as well. The number there is 520.
So it seems like somebody that would know her.
4900. Again, that is from Savannah Guthrie posting these images for the family on her Instagram account. Brianna, can I ask one more question to you? The FBI says that these images were recovered from what they called residual data located in back-end systems. Can you translate what does that mean and why did that take this many days?
Right. Well, very, very layman's terms, for the people that really, really know these systems and technology, it is far more complex. But essentially, these videos are stored locally. That's the kind of thing that we can replay back on our cell phones, especially if you have a subscription. But all of that data does get saved on servers that Nest, or owned by Google, keeps. They don't keep it indefinitely. They'll keep it for a short amount of time, typically for these exact reasons. But they don't just turn it over, if somebody asks, you have to get it.
Let's go. They said if they took her medicine with her, this seems like some family mess. Yeah, I'm just saying, man, it's crazy, y'all. But reports do say that whoever this abductor is took her medicine with them, guys. So she could potentially still be alive. But the thing is past the ransom deadline and they haven't heard any new information yet. But they do have this video of the suspect outside of her home when he was getting ready to kidnap her.
Subpoena, which takes time. It has to be submitted to Google, it has to be processed. I mean, even with a rush, that doesn't happen right away. They have so many images, their servers are gigantic, there's so many requests. So it does take a couple days. I mean, I think, there wasn't a lot of hope that they were going to be able to get anything, but I'm glad that this was successfully recovered.
Okay. Apologies, I was talking with someone in the control room. Brianna, thank you so much for your perspective. Really appreciate it. And stand by with us. I want to bring in NBC News law enforcement analyst Jim Kavanaugh. Jim, we haven't spoken to you yet since these images and this video came out. Your observations, and maybe you could speak to why you think law enforcement is putting this out there. As we were talking about earlier, this isn't a decision that I'm sure that they take lightly.
No, I've made these decisions in the command posts, and I think they're doing the right thing. They're leveraging the public's help here, Kate. Very significant throughout. The stills and the video are all going to help. They need to put a still out of just the backpack, or hopefully people will just stop it and use that so they can identify it. The backpack is very full. So what's in there? Do they have some kind of a clothes or a tarp or sheet or something to throw over Nancy? It's packed full, that backpack. And
I bet you it's a tent or something off inside of that backpack, because I don't think that he potentially may have took her to a house or anything like that. I think they're probably somewhere out in the woods. I'm just a guess of mine about what's in the backpack. I'm just saying.
Identifiable backpack. People will be able to tell the agents the make and model and so forth, but it's chock full. So it's interesting on that point. Maybe there's some food in there too, because they were going to secrete her, take her to some remote location and planning on feeding her or feeding themselves. It's very interesting.
May not be any woods there, guys, but maybe the suspect got a car that's just out of frame or something like that. I'm pretty sure he didn't walk her all the way to wherever they are right now. You know what I'm saying? Some point in time, it had to be a car involved. Or a truck.
Is in a position we call appendix carry. It's a very common position to carry a semi-automatic pistol. This is a semi-automatic pistol in an appendix carry position in a holster. This is a right-handed guy. That gun is not drawn from the left hand. It's drawn by the right hand. And I think what the command post would behoove them to go to ATF's firearms technology branch. They're the world's foremost experts on firearms. They have 8,000 firearms there in their laboratory, and those experts can identify that pistol from close-ups. So they'll be able to look at that and be able to say, if anybody can, what kind of a pistol that is. They can look at the magazine, the end of it, the way the handle slides up. They'll be able to tell, I'm sure, if they can get that picture blown up or enhanced. His behavior, and you guys are exactly right, he picks up some brush. He's trying to hold it in front of the camera. When he rips the camera off, he kind of tries to bang it with his right hand or shield his face. I noticed on the fourth still image, when they're shown in a row there, the still images, that it looked to me like when his face is shown that you might have a mustache. If you look at that still image, when the stills were first released, the shadow is going across his face. You can clearly see the shadow. It's above his mouth. And yet, when you look through the hole in the mouth, it looks to me like he might have a mustache. Now,
or it could be a shadow.
It's not definitive, and it's not enough of a close-up and enhancement, but I think they can do that and look at that because...
Is that a mustache, guys? Let's zoom in a little. Let's do our own little investigation. Let's zoom in on the face. See if we can see if that's a mustache. Is that a mustache, guys? What y'all think? 1 for mustache, 2 for no mustache. 1 if you think it's a mustache, 2 if you think it's a shadow. See a bunch of people saying yes. I see a lot of 1s. They saying definitely a mustache. Mustache. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Reflective eyes. Okay. 1, 1, 1. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Everybody feels like it's a mustache. Yeah, okay. All right. I was wondering what y'all thought, you know what I'm saying? Since I know y'all can hear me, make sure y'all hit that like button. If you ain't did that, hit that like button. And most definitely subscribe to the channel if you're new.
When you look at it, you think, well, could that be a shadow? The shadow's not there. The shadow seems to be above there. So that's something I would look at is, could there be a mustache there? And I think it was Tom or Jonathan who said looked like he was wearing multiple gloves. I agree with that. I think he probably has some, knit gloves underneath those those gloves. Those gloves don't look to be leather. They look to be more like vinyl or rubber. These are all this clothing is identifiable, and I think it's very identifiable in pre-operational crime, pre-crime behavior. I mean, I think that he could have been in a store, and you'll see that the backpack with those reflective, shoulder connectors there. That's an identifiable piece, and he's carrying a lot of kit in there. He seems to be a little bit stocky. I think he's very identifiable to someone who is a significant other, a close family relative, close friend, co-worker. I think this guy's identifiable. If you know him, you could think, well, that might be so-and-so, and, he wasn't here Saturday night. I might need to call the task force, I call him the $50,000 man. If you know who he is, there's a reward out for $50,000 for the abductors. And this guy clearly is at 2 o'clock in the morning at Nancy's house, with a pistol wrecking her doorbell. So very significant release. The videos are good. The stills are better. Get a still out of the backpack. Get ATF help on that pistol. And even the holster, and see if you can do some identification there. The shoes as well. I mean, each little piece, even the face mask, could have been purchased a week prior to the abduction. And somebody may remember that. Person, a mask like that, wearing a jacket like that. So there's a lot of evidence here that can help the task force to, establish the lead here that's viable. Kate?
Jim, thank you. I want to take a moment just to acknowledge the family and all of this again. Again, this is the mother of our...
All right, guys, so breaking news, they have video footage of the person that abducted Nancy Guthrie, guys. It's the 10th day. She's still missing. The family haven't got her back yet. Shout out to Flip Mode for those gifts. Shout out to anybody that gifted the channel. I most definitely appreciate you. Shout out to everybody that hit that like button. Yeah, man. So day 10, $50,000 reward out for Nancy's safe return, or anybody who knows where she is. And I'm betting they're gonna put out a reward. Basically this ties into this individual of interest that I'm showing y'all on the screen in this brand new camera footage. These are still shots from outside Nancy's house the night she was abducted, guys. Like 2 o'clock in the morning, man. They done took this woman out of her home and basically are holding her for ransom. They want millions of dollars in cryptocurrency and bitcoins. It's crazy, y'all. 2026 and they still kidnapping people. That's crazy. Yeah, some people believe it's an inside job due to the fact that somebody, the person, whoever this is, took Nancy's medicine with them. Nancy also was on a pacemaker, y'all. She had one basically installed in her body, man. And I think there was reports on that as well, a couple of days ago. But this is the most current and breaking news with this video and these still shots, man. If you know who this is, you can be $50,000 richer, man. I wish I knew who it was. I'd turn them right in. Yeah, straight up, I would. Give me the number, I'm turning them right in. Yeah, straight up. Yeah, I could see myself with that $50,000. We most definitely took a look at the Epstein files, guys, with the heavy redactions. The victim's attorneys was not happy about that. Going to where they were supposed to go to in order to see the unredacted version and getting a version with a lot of redactions. It's like they playing hide and go seek with the Epstein files, guys. We found out that there were a lot of people that were inside of those files, and that the DOJ said that they couldn't find any other people to basically indict or charge with anything. I think that was crazy. But as these two situations continue to go along and they continue to release stuff for us to view, I will most definitely bring it to y'all, guys. We've been in out here almost 3 hours. It's time for me to get up off of here, man. I might go live a little later with updates on the Nancy Guthrie situation. I'm unsure right now, but I'm leaning towards doing it. So if you're not subscribed to the channel and this situation basically interests you, make sure you subscribe to the channel, man. I do the latest and breaking news almost every day, you know. So if you're looking to get caught up on anything that's in the news, man, make sure you tap in with everything news, man. Shout out to everybody that subscribed to the channel, the new subscribers as well as the old subscribers. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Memberships are most definitely available on this channel. You can most definitely go to the description box of any video on my channel. Click on the link that's in the description box. It'll take you to where you need to go to get you a membership. Shout out to Lanice for being a member for the last 16 months. She says subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Absolutely. Thank you, Flip Mode. Thank you, my mother's keeper. You know what I'm saying? I see y'all. Shout out, most definitely a big shout out to my moderators. Y'all keep this chat running smooth. I wouldn't know what to do without y'all, man. Y'all are most definitely my saving grace, and I appreciate each and every one of y'all. Shout out to anybody that gifted anything to the channel. It most definitely is appreciated. There's nothing that's too small or too large. You know, I accept it all, man. You know what I'm saying? I hope y'all enjoyed the show. I hope y'all got some information that you didn't have, or got to expand on some information that you had and did not know, you know, everything about. It's just crazy. Look at the eyebrows, dude. No man has thick eyelashes. Okay, shout out to, thank you, Flip Mode. Appreciate the gift. All right. Well, you know, you're entitled to your opinion. As this case goes on, I'll bring it to you. Nobody's begging for anything. Let's get our first deportation. Don't just delete it. Deport them. Because ain't nobody beg for nothing. I said thank you for anybody that gifted anything to the channel. There's no amount too small or too large. I accept it all. Not one part of that is begging for anything. That was thanking the people who took time to donate something to the channel. Yeah, you won't have to worry about whether they donate or not, because you just got deported. We'll holler at you. You know what I'm saying? You didn't know over here we deport people faster than Trump and got more rockets than Elon Musk. With that being said, man, y'all take care of yourself. I most definitely covered everything in my title. I hope y'all liked it. I enjoyed y'all. I hope y'all enjoyed me. I'll see y'all on the next one. Y'all stay safe out there. Sidewalk Gang, checking out. Shout out to that $2. Thank you, Keeper says, thanks, Maheo. We appreciate you. I appreciate you as well. Thank you for that $2. All right. I'll see y'all later on, man. Make sure y'all tap back in with me. I'm gone.